Welcome back to another FPL Deadline stream, this time out of Game Week 9, and we've got a Friday deadline for the first time in quite a while, and we've got around 2 hours and 20 minutes until that is all done, and we can no longer make any transfers. The big news from today is Heung-min Son. It looks like he's going to miss Game Week 9 against Crystal Palace on Sunday, but the injury doesn't seem to be too serious, so you would expect him to be back against Aston Villa and Ipswich Town, but it does place those that transferred him in this week in an awkward position, and by the way, that's over 400,000 FPL managers who made the switch, and of course those that had him already would also be quite concerned, but if you've got the squad depth, you may want to keep him for at least the next 2 game weeks beyond Game Week 9. In terms of my updated transfer plans following, what I talked about in the team selection yesterday, I think the most likely move for me is Saka to Foden and really targeting that Southampton fixture, and I also back Foden to do very well in the following games like Bournemouth and Brighton. He's got a good record against those clubs, so if he gets the minutes, I think he's going to do very well, but the alternative would be perhaps rolling and getting Salah with free transfers in Game Week 10. All of my transfer plans have actually been showcased in the community section on YouTube. I'm going to show you that poll very soon. But let's delve into your questions and comments as always. Smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. If you enjoy my content, our aim is to get this stream to over 200 likes, and we're also making big strides towards 30,000 subscribers. We did hit 29k on the Tuesday during the UCL Fantasy Deadline stream, so thank you very much for your support. And on top of that, the plan is to give 10 memberships today, so keep your eyes peeled. And if you are active in the chat without any spamming, then you have a good chance of being a member for an entire month, gaining access to my videos very early on, amongst many other perks like priority reply to comments. So Cyril says, Bukayo Saka, keep or sell? My current inclination now is to sell. Now, I'm going to show you the latest updates about Saka and other key players today. Of course, I just discussed Heung-min Son, but I think going from Saka to Palmer is kind of a no-brainer at this point, and even to Mohamed Salah, if you've got the funds, of course, would definitely be viable, and I certainly wouldn't mind going to Foden, which is very likely on my own agenda. So I don't think he's necessarily a must-sell, but if I had to lean towards one kind of category, I would now say he's more of a sell than a hold, which obviously is a bit different to what I discussed in the trans tips early in the week because things have changed since then. Play Trent or Aina. Nottingham Forest have a better chance of a clean sheet, and with Arsenal, the way I see it, if Saka plays in that game, I think Arsenal will score and perhaps even win. But if Saka isn't there, on top of the other injury doubts like Calafiori, Timber, and of course the suspension to Saliba, I think Liverpool have a great chance of winning, and Trent could definitely get something. So it's very difficult to really say this without knowing the context of the lineups, but as things stand, I think I'd still lean towards Aina. That would be my personal preference. But Trent is the kind of player you never want to bench, and in the Emirates back in January in the FA Cup, he got an assist. Also at the Etihad last season, he scored the equalising goal. So I think Trent is capable of some big returns and just getting a goal or assist against the best teams in the country, whether it's home or away. So it's always going to be difficult, but my preference would be Aina at the moment. Bench 1, Aït-Nouri, Dalot and Justin. I would probably bench Aït-Nouri from those 3. I don't think Wolves keep a clean sheet, so you're then relying on attack and returns from Aït-Nouri. Start Sells or Pickford. This might be a bit of a controversial one, but I'd go for Pickford this week. Ray says, hey Dylan, I have Pickford, Fabianski, Lewis, Nouri, Aina, Gabriel, Trent, McNeil, Adama, Mbumo, Johnson, Raul, Solanke, Haaland. 1 free transfer, 0.7 million in the bank. What should I do? And who to start? Well, one possibility for you is to roll and then have 2 transfers available next week. I don't think you have to make a move necessarily. You start Pickford, you go for Lewis, Aina, and one of Gabriel or Trent, maybe even both if you wish. In the midfield, McNeil certainly starts for me, as well as Mbumo. I'd also go for Johnson, and then Raul, Solanke, and Haaland. I think that kind of speaks for itself. You bench Adama Traore, in my opinion, and possibly, I know this might be a bit of a controversial one of Gabriel or Trent, depending on who you back in that game. It could be low scoring, by the way, but it's a very difficult game to call without all the information, especially in regards to Arsenal. So I think the best thing to do in your situation is roll. Callum Jr. says, evening Dylan, transfer Lewis in for Davis and bench Trent, or just play Trent. I'd personally just play Trent, but I understand why you're thinking about it because it's a very high upside move to buy a City defender against Southampton at home. You'd probably back City to keep a clean sheet finally in the Premier League. They've been doing it in the Champions League, but not so much in this competition. I'd probably just play Trent personally though. Cylindra says, hey Dylan, which is the best transfer option? Number 1, Foden, Cunha, Aït-Nouri. 2, Palmer, Wissa, 4.4 million defender. If so, who? And 3, Palmer, Strand Larsen and Aït-Nouri. I'm just wondering, do you have Mikalenko? Because if you don't, I'd probably go for number 2 and go for Palmer, Wissa, and Mikalenko. But it's all team dependent. I don't know the rest of your squad, so it's difficult for me to really judge that definitively. Sell Saka and Son. Yeah, it's a bit of an awkward situation, right? But if you've got both, I'd certainly sell one of them to Cole Palmer. I think that speaks for itself, but you might not have the funds to do that, so it's always a bit of a tricky one. Thank you, John G, for the kind words, and also for being a channel member for so long. Your support is massively appreciated. So thanks, Dylan, for the amazing content. Your hard work makes the FPL season even more fun. I very much appreciate that. All the best of luck for Game Week 9. If I'm not mistaken, you're having a great start to this season, so hopefully that continues. The Fantasy Football Lad says, hey, currently sitting on 2 free transfers since I already used my first one, Saka to Palmer. Thoughts on DCL to Jimenez and Semenyo to McNeil. I love those transfers, but I'm a bit apprehensive about DCL to Raul Jimenez this week. I think Everton could get the win here, and I think with DCL, maybe I'm kind of thinking about it in the wrong way, but I could just see him returning when most people sell him in Game Week 9. Maybe that's not really the way to approach it, and ultimately, I think you're right to go to Jimenez, who is a better option long term. My favourite choice, though, would be Semenyo to McNeil. I think that's a great transfer, and I'd had no doubts about it. You can always sell DCL to Jimenez, Strand Larson, Cunha, or Wissa in the coming weeks, so I'd probably favour the midfield transfer there. Start free Mikalenko, Gabriel, Lewis, Trent. Very difficult one. At the moment, I'd lean towards benching Gabriel, especially if you've got Raya in your setup already. And I might as well, kind of analyse that a little bit more because obviously I did talk about it briefly in the team selection, but just for those that maybe didn't watch. So at the moment, I do have Gabriel on my bench. He is second, in fact, and I've got Vandenberg, Lewis, and Mikalenko starting. The key reason why is because I've already got Raya in goal, and I don't think Arsenal keep a clean sheet, especially with no Saliba and the other possible injuries like Saka, Calafiori, and Timber. So we could see either Zinchenko or Kivior, possibly even both starting. And I personally think Salah could get a lot of joy, especially up against Zinchenko. So that's why I've got Gabriel on the bench, but he has scored against Liverpool before, namely in December last year at Anfield. But I personally think, in terms of clean sheet odds, I'd be backing all the teams in terms of Brentford, City, and Everton more so than Arsenal in Game Week 9. If Arsenal had a fully fit squad, I might see it differently and just play Gabriel. And also, if Saka does play, I think that boosts Gabriel's chance of getting a return because of the set pieces. You know, both goals that Gabriel has scored this season have been assisted by Bukayo Saka. Bench one of Konate, Aina, Gabriel, Aït-Nouri. Not too fond of Konate. I think if it was Trent, it's different because he's got the assist for it, also the attacking potential. Konate can score a goal from a set piece, though. But I think Aït-Nouri is probably the one to bench there. I think so. It's between Konate and Aït-Nouri. Now, Aït-Nouri is more likely to get a goal or assist, but then Konate plays in a better defence, and Arsenal have a lot of troubles. If Saka doesn't play, I honestly don't see how Arsenal score against Liverpool. They might score 1 goal max, but I don't see anything more than that. So my current preference would be to bench Aït-Nouri. So thank you for all the comments and questions. Keep them coming in, and as long as you keep things respectful, we are all good. Bench one, Gabriel, Dalot, and Smith Rowe. Probably Dalot. I think United concede against West Ham. With Gabriel, you always got a bit of attacking potential there. And Smith Rowe against Everton, it's not the worst fixture, although I think if you do have an Everton defender, you might be tempted to start a Mikalenko or Pickford in goal. So it does depend on your setup as well. You might want to minimise these kind of conflicts and matchups, but I think on the face of it, I'd bench Dalot. That's the way I see it. Saka to Foden -4, have Rodgers on the bench? No, I just start Rodgers, to be honest. I know Foden could easily pay off that -4 hit, but if you take that into account and Rodgers' potential score, I think I just play Rodgers and roll the transfer essentially, or at least not take the hit in your case. I've already used the triple captaincy, Beardy. In Game Week 2 on Haaland, he got a hat-trick against Ipswich Town, so luckily I don't have to think about this too much. If I had the triple captaincy, I'd be very tempted. The way I see it is, if you want a triple captain Haaland this season, I think this is the best opportunity. I'm not saying it's unlikely City get a double game week, but it is plausible. You will have double game weeks at some stage, but it could be Salah getting one instead. You've also got players like Salah and Palmer who will have great fixtures later this season, or potentially a double game week. So it really depends on how you're looking at it, but if you want a triple captain Haaland, I think now is the time. Thank you, Bloodtap Arsenal. Good to see you. Who do I sell Son for? I think Palmer is the simple one. If you've got the funds, I think that's definitely the best transfer you could make. Hey bro, hoping for more than one return this week. Last game week, whole team blanked. Bar Salah captain. Good luck. Likewise to you. At least you got a captaincy haul though, and Salah went ballistic against Chelsea. I pretty much said it on Twitter on the day. I knew Salah was going to do well. And ever since I sold him, it's just been a regret really. I bought him at the wrong time and sold him at the wrong time on the wild card. But yeah, you should do well in game week 9. I think you've got a good squad. Not sure what makes you ask that, but Chris Wood has been a good option all season. I've got other issues in my team instead of Chris Wood, who has been very consistent for me since game week 1. It makes no sense to go from Chris Wood to Raul Jimenez, for example, when I've got Mykolenko currently in my starting 11, and I'm personally backing Everton for a win there, and Branthwaite is back, which gives them a massive boost offensively, so I don't really see a need to go from Wood to Jimenez this week. Hey Dylan, I have 2 free transfers. Should I transfer out Saka, and what do you think I should do with Salah? I think Salah's a very easy hold at this point, but if you've got the funds, I think Saka to Palmer is a very simple one. You won't regret it. The alternative would be Foden, and of course there have been a lot of concerns about his minutes this season. They've been very inconsistent in the Premier League, but with Grealish and Doku out, you've also got all the other injuries that City have, Oscar, Bob. I personally think Foden is, I want to say guaranteed. It's always difficult to say something like that with Foden in City, but I think he's very likely going to start against Southampton, and I think he'll also start one of Bournemouth or Brighton at the very least. There will be benchings and some headaches, and Foden isn't the easiest of players to own, but I think one of Palmer or Foden for Saka is the right transfer to make, and I'd keep Salah if possible. Other than Mykolenko and a Brentford defender, who's the best 4.4 million defender? Not really a big fan. 8 Nuri was recently at 4.4, but he went up in price just the other day, I believe. So it does become difficult. You might be looking at one of a Collie or Fass, but I'm not really too interested. So if you can't go to Mykolenko or the Brentford defender, you might have to settle for one of the other options you discussed. And I think on the face of it, if I remember correctly, it would be option 3. Garnacho or McNeil? This week it would be McNeil, but I really like Garnacho. He was highlighted in the best wildcard team and the transfer tips this week. I really back him as a good option for the next 5 to 10 game weeks for Man United with those great fixtures coming up. Dan says, hi Dylan, thoughts on a 1-week punt on a Brighton attacker versus Wolves at home? That's a good shout. Danny Welbeck, if fit, which isn't a guarantee of course, he would be my favourite, but I think Jorginho Rota has been very consistent in the last couple of weeks. He would be another alternative, and Matoma is always exciting to watch. He can be frustrating FPL-wise, but I think any of them could be great. I'd probably rank it in that order, with Rota second, Welbeck first, and Matoma third. Unfortunately though, you don't know for sure if Welbeck's going to start. They might not risk him, even though he has been in training this week. But I agree with you. I think there is a big upside. But Wolves did look very solid defensively against City, Liverpool, and even Arsenal earlier this season. I think they do step up against the better teams in the league. But who's to say that maybe Brighton just find the formula and score 3 or 4 goals past Wolves? I think it's possible. So I think you make a good point there. Orange Apple says, hi Dylan, in an awful position where I need to move on Saka, but can't afford Palmer without a -4. Should I go Bruno, Garnacho, or just firm a -4? Already have Foden and no great bench options to roll. Great question. I just go for Palmer despite the -4 hit. I think long term that pays off. Now, Garnacho would be a great shout actually. I'd prefer him over Bruno Fernandes for free. But I think Palmer for a -4 just really trumps the other options you discussed. Silent Pros Gaming says, hey Dylan, Flecken, Fabianski, Gabriel, Kanate, Gavadio, Van de Ven, 8 Nuri, Mbumo, McNeil, Mavedidi, Carvalho, Foden, Solanke, Raul, Haaland, whom to start? Of course, Flecken in goal. I would probably go for, well, I definitely would go for Gavadio, although there is a slight risk of rotation. I'd go for Gabriel and possibly, I think Van de Ven here. I would bench Kanate from those options. In your midfield, start McNeil, Foden, Mbumo, of course, and I'd probably go for Mavedidi, although there is a chance for Tau starts instead of Mavedidi. And of course, they could play together, but that hasn't really happened this season so far. Maybe it does tonight against Nottingham Forest, but I'd probably take a chance on Mavedidi and then start all 3 attackers. So hopefully that's quite clear. Start 3 of Gabriel, Rico Lewis. I'm guessing there's more to it than that. But thank you, by the way, to Nuclear Arms for moderating the chat. Although I think he was just continuing his question. Although if he did spam later, then fair enough. But yeah, just to answer that quickly, it would be Rico Lewis. I'd probably go for Robinson. And I'd go for Gabriel. A very difficult one, though, I have to say. Palace against Spurs could be low scoring. I don't trust Spurs defensively, but it wouldn't surprise me if Spurs kept the clean sheet there. So, yeah, I can understand why you're asking this question. So, Dan, if you got Raya in goal already, I'd bench Gabriel, and that's what I'm doing at the moment, and start Van den Ven. But if you don't, you know what? I think I'd probably bench Robinson instead. I think Everton score. I really do. So, yeah, I'll change my mind on that one, and I'd bench Robinson. But it all depends on your setup. If you've got Raya already, you may want to bench Gabriel instead. Who would you play, Martinez, Fass, or Davis? Not too fond of any of them this week, but I would probably go for Fass. Is Saka a keep or sell? I'm leaning more towards a sell, which I discussed earlier. That's my current thinking. And that's why I'm looking at Saka to Foden. And of course, in my team selection yesterday, I was kind of more, I was closer to going to Son and maybe Aït-Nouri in my backline, but yeah, I think with the injury news now with Heung-min Son, I think Foden is a standout, really. If you don't have Palmer, though, I think Palmer is a very easy switch. Palmer and 5 million defender for a -4, or Mbeumo to Son. I would not sell Mbeumo this week. I'm guessing you're selling Son to Mbeumo, right? Because obviously Son is likely missing out against Palace. My preference would be Palmer and a 5 million defender for a -4 hit. Welcome, Harrison James. Thinking of Gabriel out for Aït-Nouri next week, then potentially move Trent back to Gabriel in Gameweek 13, since I have Raya in goal also and not keen on the double Arsenal defence at the moment. Completely agree. Now, if it was Southampton at home, of course, if we went back in time again, you'd probably still go for the double up in the Arsenal defence despite the injuries and suspensions, but against Liverpool at home, I just don't see a clean sheet. So I agree with you. That's fine, as long as you've got a route back to Gabriel, and of course injuries could happen and maybe you spend your other free transfers on other areas, so it might become more difficult. But yeah, I think on the face of it, you make a good point. But I wouldn't want to start Aït-Nouri this week, to be honest. I really wouldn't. I think Brighton score. However, you would have Aït-Nouri in place for Game Week 10 and beyond, facing Southampton at home, which is a plum fixture. Aina or Aït-Nouri? Definitely Aina this week. I think Nottingham Forest have a better chance of a clean sheet, although personally, I think both Wolves and Nottingham Forest concede, but maybe I'm wrong. Best family midfielder? Buonanotte. Definitely in terms of form, the quality of play, he's got a lot of potential, and some decent fixtures, although buying him this week against Nottingham Forest isn't ideal. We know how good Forest are defensively, the second least goals conceded, and in terms of XGC, expected goals conceded, I believe they're 8th in the Premier League table. Should I sell Trent or keep on the bench? I'd start Trent this week, I think, in most scenarios. By the way, thank you to Keith for moderating the chat. And that's probably means it's time to put this pin message just so everything is clear in terms of how things operate. So just keep it respectful. We do answer a lot of questions and pretty much hundreds of comments in every single live stream, but try to be respectful and don't spam. Otherwise, your questions will be skipped. And of course, sometimes, of course, we've already covered your questions anyway. So let me see if I can actually find my comment. It's already been lost, I think. There are a lot of comments coming in, so I do appreciate that. And I'm going to go to the super chat now. Just trying to find it now. Just give me a second and we'll get this sorted. All right, so thank you to Das for the super chat. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for the support. So let's get this up on screen. Free transfers. Saka and Havertz out for Palmer and Chris Wood. Should I make a defensive change? Have Trent, Gabriel, Greaves, Lewis and Mikalenko. Your defense is relatively solid. Greaves is the only concern. He's probably out for another couple of weeks. So that's kind of a minor nitpick because you wouldn't start him this week anyway. But if you've got the funds, I think Greaves to Aït-Nouri is a great long-term transfer. I don't like Aït-Nouri against Brighton away in Game Week 9, but I do like him from Game Week 10 onwards. So that would be a nice transfer if you've got the funds. Now, if you haven't made the transfers yet, I would suggest another striker instead of Chris Wood. Now, I said earlier, he's been great for me since Game Week 1, and for those that have Chris Wood, you obviously hold him, but it would be a very short-term punt in terms of the fixtures. I do think with Arsenal away and even Man City away over the next 5-6 game weeks, I don't think it's the best time to buy Chris Wood. If anything, I'd be looking at Cunha or Wissa. You've also got Strand Larsen, Raul Jimenez, and a few other strikers with better fixtures than Chris Wood. So if you haven't made that transfer, I would urge you to reconsider and possibly go for another forward instead. But in terms of your defender transfers, I think it's all looking good, but I'd possibly do Greaves to Aït-Nouri in Game Week 10. Thank you very much for the super chat, and hopefully that answers your questions in the best possible way. Raul or Rodgers? I'd probably favour Rodgers this week, actually, but I do like Jimenez a lot, and it's difficult to bench him with the form he's in. Triple captain this week. So this has been covered earlier. So essentially, if you want to triple captain Haaland this season, I think this is the best opportunity you'll get, unless City get a double game week later in the campaign, which isn't a guarantee. Now, you will have other opportunities in general, with Salah facing Southampton at home. You've also got Cole Palmer with such fixtures. So it's not like this is the be-all and end-all. But if you want to captain or triple captain Erling Haaland, I think now is the best time. Thank you, Safir. It is, well, maybe I shouldn't say it, just so people don't call me biased. But thank you very much. Like and subscribe. I appreciate Safir as always. Fass or Robinson? I'd go for Robinson this week, but I don't think Fulham or Leicester City keep a clean sheet. Smith Rowe or Semenyo or Fass or Mazraoui, pick one. It would likely be Smith Rowe, but not a big fan of him this week necessarily. I think Semenyo could be decent. I could see Villa winning probably 3-1. That's my current prediction, and Semenyo could score Bournemouth's only goal, but I'd go for Smith Rowe at the moment. Khaled says Diaz, Havertz, Trossard, Foden, Johnson and Wissa for 8 is a good long-term bargain. Is that for a -8? Yeah, I'm not sure what you're doing there. Not a big fan of Luis Diaz right now, but maybe against an Arsenal defence that's quite depleted, he could do well. Let's see if there's anything else I've missed, because sometimes the chat does bug out. I think it's all good here. Okay. Saka or Palmer long term? It would be Palmer. Chelsea have great fixtures from Game Week 12, and to be fair, so do Arsenal. But with Saka's injury situation and the next 3 game weeks, I would favour Cole Palmer. I don't see Newcastle or Man United as being very tough games for Cole Palmer at least. Maybe Chelsea drop points in one of them, but I don't think Palmer blanks in both. I got Son in before the injury news. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, over 400,000 FPL managers bought Son, so it's quite unfortunate. And that's why, if possible, I said this in the team selection yesterday, try to hold out with transfers if you can, but understand the temptation to go early, especially if you're going to be priced out. But I think Son is still a hold long-term, at least for the next 2 to 3 game weeks overall. I think he'll play against Villa, and he's got a good record against them, and Ipswich Town. I think Son's probably the best captaincy option in Game Week 11. Best 3 defenders in Game Week 9 or overall? Because if it's overall, I'd still say Gabriel, Trent, and probably Gvardiol. But if I'm talking about this week, I think Gvardiol is probably still there. I wouldn't go for the other 2 necessarily. I'll be honest, I look at the defender options this week and I don't see many clean sheets on paper. I do like Rico Lewis as well, but would you want to double up? Probably not. I do like maybe Pedro Porro against Palace this week as well. And I think the other one that kind of maybe stands out to me would be either Mikalenko or Luka Deem. Those are the kind of favourite options in Game Week 9. So Gvardiol and Rico Lewis would certainly be in that top 3. But I wouldn't double up defensively if possible. Would you rather have Salah or Palmer? This week it would be Palmer. Long term, it's close. I think Salah's excellent, but I think Palmer is still better because he's even cheaper. And I just think he's just a great option long term with the fixtures in mind as well. So as much as I like Salah, I might even buy him in Game Week 10 or 11. I would probably go for Cole Palmer. Welcome, Spidey. Good to see you. Start Aina and Gabriel or Aina and Van den Ven. So basically, Gabriel Van den Ven is the question, isn't it? If you've got Raya in goal already, I'd start Van den Ven. I think Arsenal still have a better defence than Tottenham, but Palace away or Liverpool at home, I think Palace looks much better for a clean sheet. Now, Spurs could do a Spurs thing in terms of losing against Crystal Palace and giving them their first win of the season, but Spurs have been in great form. You have to say that. 7 wins out of the last 8 games. At the moment, I'd lean towards Van den Ven, though. Start Smith Rowe or Buonanotte? Probably Smith Rowe, but very close one. I have 3 transfers. Thoughts on replacing Calvert-Lewin and maybe getting Palmer in the midfield? Yeah, I probably would. It might backfire this week with Calvert-Lewin facing Fulham at home. I think Everton will get the win here. But I think there are better forwards elsewhere. Cunha, Strand Larsen, Wissa, Raul Jimenez, Delap. I think they're all better than Calvert-Lewin, so that's fine for me. Hi Dylan, what do you think of this defence this week? Gvardiol, Collins, Mazraoui. That's fine. Although I would start... Well, you've got Saliba on the bench, so that's absolutely fine. I don't know who your 5th defender is, but yeah, that will do. You know, Gvardiol is one of the best options this week in that position. Collins is decent on paper against Ipswich, although I don't trust Brentford defensively. I just think Mazraoui against West Ham away, he'll probably concede. I don't really see much there. He played in the attacking midfield position against Fenerbahce yesterday. But that's fine. Ultimately, it's all good. But I think if you did have a Gabriel or Trent, for example, I would start them over Mazraoui. Konate or Gabriel? Yeah, that's fair. Look, if you feel Liverpool will win, you probably should go for Konate. But from those two, I'd go for Gabriel. Now, if you were saying Trent, it would be a different story, in my opinion. Now, if I knew Saka was going to play for sure, I'd be much more confident of an Arsenal win, or at least them scoring some goals and making things difficult for Liverpool. But yeah, I think that's fair. Should I start Dibbling or Aït-Nouri? Probably Aït-Nouri. I just don't see Dibbling doing anything against City. Our wildcard now, at least 5 to 6 of my players either suspended or injured. That's fair enough. Check out my best wildcard team video if you haven't already. I think that'll help you a lot. And there are some different ideas discussed compared to the previous editions there as well. So we do have already 2 hours before the deadline. Time does go very fast when you're having fun. And yeah, let's keep the questions rolling. Of course, if some are repeated, for example, then just understand they may be skipped. But I'll try to still cover as many questions and comments as possible. Of course, taking into account that some people are joining the stream late. I don't think getting Wood is too late. Yeah, I'm not sure if I said the words or the term too late, but I don't think it's the best time to buy him. I think that's fair to say. Yeah, he's still got some good fixtures and he can do something against the best teams, but against Arsenal and City away, for example, I think most people who own Chris Wood by that stage will probably bench him. Cunha is the better play versus Strand Larsen, if you can afford it. Strand Larsen is still betting into life in the Premier League. I agree. There is a 1 million difference in price, but I do think Cunha is worth it if, you know, it doesn't compromise you in another position. I think Strand Larsen will get more goals than Cunha, but Cunha can get assists and also bonus points. That's the best thing about Cunha. With just 1 goal, he can get 2 or 3 bonus out of nothing, a bit like Chris Wood at the moment. So I think you make a fair point. Start Vardy or Wood? I'd start Chris Wood at the moment. I mean, Jamie Vardy's stats are just very poor. I'm not sure if it's still the case, but Wout Faes had more shots than Vardy by Game Week 6. I mean, that's just tremendous, isn't it? So, yeah, I probably would rather go for Chris Wood. Raul has a fantastic run of fixtures and form to go with it. With Pereira's missed penalty, Raul could be the penalty taker too. I mean, he should be the penalty taker. He's got a great record from the spot, you know, during his time at Wolves, and even for Mexico, I believe he's taken a few. I've mentioned Raul Jimenez a lot in the last couple of weeks. He was even in my best wildcard team in the alternative section. I still like him a lot, and he could be one of my transfers in for Game Week 10 if I buy Salah. Goldhead says Trent and Saka to Lewis, Pinnock, Palmer. I have 4 free transfers, so could also sell Greaves and do Semenyo to Garnacho. Oof. I'll be honest. I mean, look, I like the Palmer transfer with, you know, Lewis. That looks really good, but I think Garnacho and replacing Greaves, I'm not sure who you would get for him, but that would really tempt me, actually. But Palmer is just so good of an option. I'd probably lean towards that one, buying Cole Palmer. But definitely keep an eye out for the last one. That's a really good suggestion. What do you think of Welbeck to Jackson? Difficult one because Danny Welbeck could be available to face Wolves as far as I'm aware. I'm going to check the latest updates and see if there's anything from today. But I'm pretty sure he has been in training this week, and he was a hold in my Transtits podcast this week as well. Now, Jackson is a good long-term option, and buying him now might seem early to some, but I think it's a good transfer, so don't get me wrong, that's good. But I have to say, if you got a good bench option to come in for Welbeck if needed, I'd probably risk it and keep Welbeck and start him against Wolves. That would be my inclination. So let's just get the exact quotes by Brighton, but I think it's from yesterday's press conference, which I've already seen. So unfortunately, I don't think we've got anything new on Danny Welbeck that could help you with your dilemma. But let me just try to get it up here now. Let's see if there's anything. So yeah, it's too early to say whether Danny Welbeck will be available in Game Week 9, according to Hörsler. So the striker is still feeling pain, but he did train yesterday. So yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I'd probably chance it and keep Danny Welbeck for now, but you can always buy Jackson in the future. Brennan instead of Son until Son is back. I think that's fine. And you might want to keep Johnson and buy Son alongside him for Ipswich Town at home in Game Week 11. Play Flecken over Bruggen. Probably Flecken. I think Brighton are better defensively, but I think Wolves will score. And of course, you could say the same thing about Ipswich, but you could argue it's due, or it's about time that Brentford keep a clean sheet. My gut feeling would be Flecken. Pick one out of Jimenez, Wissa, Larson, Cunha. Great question. For Game Week 9, it'd be Wissa. Overall, I think Cunha's my favourite. The only problem is that he's the most expensive of the players you've mentioned, but I like his bonus points potential. I'd captain Haaland this week over Palmer. I have been poor my captaincy decisions recently though, so you may want to take that with a pinch of salt. But facing Southampton at home, I just don't see anything other than a Haaland brace or hat-trick. Yeah, I think Foden will start. Doku, Grealish and De Bruyne are still out. Oscar Bob also missing, of course. I think it's kind of prime for Foden to start. He's also got a great record against Southampton. I've checked the recent meetings and Foden has gotten a goal and assist against them before on a few occasions. He's got a very good record actually against the Saints, both home and away. Is Trent a sell to free up funds for the midfield? Well, that's what I did in Game Week 7, and of course the timing was poor because Trent got 8 points against Crystal Palace in the early kickoff back then, but I think so. Now, Sophia, I'm not sure if you're aware, I'm guessing you are, but Heung-min Son is probably going to miss Game Week 9, and that was confirmed by Ange Postecoglou today. It's nothing serious. I think he'll be back for Aston Villa and Ipswich Town, but really you're looking at Palmer and Foden at the moment. Who is better? It would be Brian Mbeumo, but I do like Buonanotte, quality player with a lot of potential, and at 5 million and below, he's the best asset in the midfield or attack. But this week, I'd definitely go for Mbeumo, and to be honest, I'd say the same thing in most game weeks. Brooklyn Joyce says, do you think I should take out Brennan Johnson for Foden for a -4 hit, and I have Son? I wouldn't do it for a -4 hit. I still like Johnson against Villa, and especially Ipswich Town. I think Spurs assets could go ballistic, and I could see them winning 4 or 5-1 in that game, for example. But for Crystal Palace away, I can understand why you're thinking about it. And yeah, that -4 hit can pay off immediately with Foden getting a double-digit haul against Southampton, which I think is very likely if he does start tomorrow. So yeah, I think that's a very good point. I probably wouldn't do it because I still like Johnson as a budget midfielder. Best Saka replacement, already have Palmer. I think Foden, and that's what I'm looking towards at the moment. Well, I can do all 4 changes, so Trent and Greaves or Fass would be to Lewis and Pinnock. Fair enough, I'm just not too keen on Pinnock. I've got Van den Berg myself, but mainly because he's a 4 million defender. But I just don't really trust Brentford defensively, despite those fixtures coming up. But yeah, good transfers overall. I'm just a bit unsure about Pinnock. Start Gabriel or Mykolenko. I'm currently going for Mykolenko, but that's mainly because I've got Raya in goal. I think if you've got no Arsenal coverage defensively, you'd probably go for Gabriel because Arsenal have the better defence. Gabriel can score a goal out of nowhere, and Arsenal might rely on set pieces, especially if they've got key players missing. Of course, Odegaard will miss out, but if Saka also is out, it kind of is a double-edged sword. I think Saka is the one that kind of finds Gabriel from the corners, but at the same time, I think Arsenal just won't really... I don't see them scoring goals from open play if that's the case, and Gabriel will be kind of like the saviour to get something out of it. Keep DCL or sell him for Raul Jimenez are a better option. I like Jimenez a lot, and that would be an upgrade long term, but this week I'd keep DCL one more time, I think. But you do have Cunha and Wissa as well that you might want to go to, Strand Larsen, Delap. There are so many forwards that are better than Calvert-Lewin long term. Also, best Saka replacement for a -4 if I already have Palmer. Like I said, Foden would be the one for that answer as well. So Delap, Smith Rowe, Diaz, choose 2 of the 3. Probably Delap and Smith Rowe. Havertz to Raul or Wood. I'd go for Jimenez right now, but I still like Chris Wood. It's just the timing is a bit off because he faces Arsenal and City very soon, and the fixtures aren't great after the next 2 game weeks. Bench 1 of Bowen, Rodgers, and Buonanotte and DCL. I'd probably bench Buonanotte, which is risky considering his form, but I think Forest will keep it tight. They might concede, and I think Leicester will get a goal, but yeah, I think Leicester will get 1 goal. And I don't see them scoring 2 or 3 against Forest, for example, so I'd go for the other options. What do you think of this non-playing attacker to Chris Wood plus Robertson to Bodder for free? That's fine. That's absolutely fine, but as mentioned earlier, you might want to consider other strikers instead of Chris Wood because beyond the next 2 game weeks, Chris Wood has kind of a mixed bag set of fixtures, whilst Raul Jimenez, Strand Larsen, Cunha, and Wissa have excellent games coming up. Start McNeil or Jimenez? McNeil. Bench 1 of Trent, Aina, or Gabriel. I think it'd be Aina out of those 3, but if you got Raya in goal, I'd bench Gabriel. It all depends on that. Start 2 of these 3, Van den Berg, Gabriel, McNeil, and Rodgers. McNeil and Rodgers for sure. I will not triple captain Haaland. I'll do it in a double game week. That's fair enough. Just bear in mind that there might not be many double game weeks this season. In fact, it's very likely we won't get as many compared to previous years. And if you've got all your other chips remaining, or at least most of them, you might want to use a free hit, for example, in a double game week. So just take that into account, but that's fine. Keep DCL or sell him for Raul Jimenez. That's been covered. So let's go for some different ones. Mikolenko, Lewis, Gavardio, Van den Berg, Dallo. Who do I start? Rico Lewis for sure. Gavardio. I'd personally go for Mikolenko at the moment. What do you think of this? Non-playing attacker. I covered Jude. I think that's fine. But I did obviously offer my thoughts in terms of Chris Wood many times. Trent to 8 Nuri, Diaz to Foden, and Son to Palmer -4. I'd do it. Of course, a few reservations about selling Trent for a hit. I still like him a lot long term, but yeah, I think that's good. So your 5th defender is Greaves and Saliba 4th. I play this week Gavardio, Mizrahi, Collins. Yeah, that's absolutely fine for this week. And then in the coming weeks, you could maybe sell Saliba. Although going from Saliba to Gabriel might be a bit kind of sideways, so to speak. But I think Gabriel will outscore him this season. Fast, Keane or Mikolenko? I'd go for Mikolenko. I personally think Branthwaite starts over Keane. I will not be going there for those that maybe want an Everton defender. I'd be looking at Mikolenko, although his injury record is a bit concerning. Is Saka to Salah a -4 worth it for the next 3-4 fixtures? I believe so. But despite the fact that Saka wasn't spotted in training today, I still think there's a chance he makes it for the game. Let's actually go to the other slides and obviously the piece of information. But first off, let's go to the FDR and see what has changed. Brentford are now top until Game Week 14 with Everton, Wolves, Fulham and Leicester in the top 5. If you look at those near the bottom, we've got some top teams in there. Newcastle, Liverpool, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa. Even Chelsea really low down. But after the next 3 game weeks, Chelsea have a great run of fixtures until the end of the year practically. If we look at the predicted points, Haaland is top with 9 predicted points. Palmer second with Foden, Mbeumo, Salah, Isak, Chris Wood, Watkins, Eze and Havertz in the top 10. Eze is always or nearly always in these lists for Fantasy Football Hub. That's the only thing I disagree with, but maybe he'll do something against Tottenham and get some bonus points. It's about time he does that. As for price changes, Foden could go up in price tonight. The same goes for Buonanotte, Dean and Sells. As for price falls, we're looking at Joelinton, Minter, who is an injured out this week, Walker, Sancho, Amad Diallo, Saliba, Steele, Trent, Luis Diaz, Saka, Diogo Jota, and we could see more transfer activity depending on what happens in the next hour or 2 until the deadline. As for Drafthound, they've recommended some different transfers now, and literally yesterday they were saying Saka to Son and some different options here, and now they're recommending Saka and Rodgers to Foden and Kulusevski. Those are some pretty good moves, to be fair. Although Rodgers against Bournemouth at home, I'm very happy to keep him for this week anyway. The alternative suggestions are Greaves to Gavardio and Solanke to a budget forward like Antonio. I think they've got a good idea there, but I wouldn't go for Antonio personally with Strand Larsen, Cunha, Wissa, Delap, Raul Jimenez and other strikers who are even better at a similar price. If we check their suggestions for the starting 11, they put Mikolenko in for Saka, as they're not backing him to start at the moment, with Haaland captain and Palmer as the vice. They've still got Solanke on the bench with Semenyo in his stead. And speaking of which, let's talk about my transfer plans, just for those that maybe are joining in now. So essentially, following the news about Heung-min Son likely missing the Crystal Palace game, my most likely Saka replacement will be Phil Foden. And that is winning the vote with over half of the percentage there. In second is Roll, and buying Salah in Game Week 10 with 3 transfers. And then Semenyo to McNeil is actually last with 8%. And in third is Solanke to Cunha, Wissa, Raul, or another budget forward. And that could also help me buy Salah in the future. But essentially, I think Saka to Foden is my most likely move. And I think the poll kind of summarizes what I'm feeling. The second most likely scenario for me is rolling. If Saka doesn't play, I've got Semenyo or Gabriel to come off my bench if needed. So I think that's probably what I'm looking at. It's between those 2 options, and I'm very tempted by Foden's high ceiling against Southampton. So this is where the news came from about Tottenham Hotspur and Heung-min Son. Ange Postecoglou has confirmed that Son is unlikely to make Sunday's match at Palace with an injury. Not serious, but probably won't make the game in Game Week 9. So this is another one that came just a few hours ago. Jurriën Timber, Calafiori and Saka all absent from Arsenal training today. and Arteta actually gave an update on Saka. He's done a bit of training on the grass. How far we can get him until Sunday, that is a different question. We have another day, which is a good thing. We will see. And he said something similar about Jurriën Timber as well. Now, I have a feeling that one or two of these players, even Calafiori potentially, could actually be available against Liverpool, and that would be massive for the Gunners, giving them a massive boost and chance of getting something against Liverpool. Let's now check or compare the stats of two of the best options in FPL, Salah versus Palmer. I was asked this earlier, who is the better option? I'd personally lean towards Palmer. He's even cheaper. I think he also has great fixtures on Game Week 12 onwards, and although Salah's got Brighton and Southampton in the next 5 game weeks, I still think Palmer could outscore him in that time frame. And if you're looking to buy one this week, I think Palmer makes much more sense, and it's more attainable for most people. You might be looking to sell Saka, for example, whilst with Salah, you would need to make a downgrade elsewhere, and that'll be very tricky if you don't have more than one free transfer, or maybe you're not prepared to take many hits to make that happen. And let's actually do a sneak preview of Game Week 10. So this is with the assumption I don't buy Phil Foden, keep Saka. I could then sell Saka to Salah, and also to make that possible, I'd make a downgrade, either Gabriel or Raya, and in this case it'd be Raya to a cheaper goalkeeper like Onana, and also I'd be buying Raul Jimenez or Strand Larsen for Solanke, and then I'd captain Salah against Brighton at home. That is one possibility for my team, but I think Phil Foden is too tempting, and I probably will go there in the end. Finally, before I go back to my team and your questions, let's discuss FPL Challenge. This is my current setup. The challenge this week is called Playmakers, so key passes and crosses are worth 2 points. That's why I've been tempted by Trent, even McNeil are some decent options here, but I've gone for Pickford, Gvardiol, Palmer, Mbeumo, and Erling Haaland, who is my captain here as well. Hopefully that doesn't mean a double jinx and a blank yet again in FPL. I mean, he's already blanked 3 times in a row in this competition. Surely it's not going to be 4, facing the worst team in the Premier League. But we'll go back to this very soon, and by the deadline, once that's done, I will talk about my predictions for Game Week 9. But let's go back to my team for now, and I'll probably make a transfer within the next hour or so, or at least determine my final transfer plans, which could involve rolling, as mentioned earlier. Get Rico or Mikalenko. I prefer Rico Lewis, and with Kyle Walker out for the next couple of weeks, I think it's good timing, actually. Yeah, I think I would play the triple captaincy if I still had it, but as mentioned before, if you're not really that settled on triple captaining Haaland and you're prepared to do it with Salah or Palmer, you could afford to wait. It's not like now or never, only if you want to triple captain Haaland and you're kind of settled on that particular aspect. Havertz to Jimenez or Greaves to Keane. I would not buy Keane. Branthwaite is back. He will likely start alongside Tarkowski, and that means Keane drops to the bench, which might seem harsh, but it makes no sense to buy Keane right now, in my opinion. So I would do Havertz to Jimenez if I had to pick one transfer. Yeah, I think Van de Ven should start. I see no reason why that wouldn't be the case. Henderson, Greaves, and Jota to Onana, McNeil, and Lewis with free transfers. Yeah, looks good to me. I think United won't keep a clean sheet in Game Week 9 or 10, but Onana could get a save point in one of those matches, and long term, I think United have a great set of games where he could get some clean sheets finally. So, yeah, I think those transfers are very good. Having Salah and Palmer long term and selling Watkins to Jimenez, yeah, looks fine. But by Game Week 12, when Villa's fixtures turn for the better, you may want to go back to Watkins. And to be honest, I wouldn't sell Watkins to buy Salah this week. I would not do that. If anything, do it in Game Week 10. Bench Gabriel or Pau Torres? I'd bench Pau Torres, but if you got Raya in goal already, my preference would be to diversify your defence, not double up on Arsenal against Liverpool, and then bench Gabriel. So it all depends on that factor. If you don't have another Arsenal defender or Raya in goal, I would go for Gabriel. Is Foden a good captaincy option? Yeah, I think so. If he starts, he'll likely get an assist or 2 with his expected assist stats, and there are the extra points for a goal and possible clean sheets when compared to Haaland. Yeah, so in the limited game time he's got this season, he's got very good expected assist numbers, but it's a small sample size, and if you look at last season, I do think his creativity is a bit blown out of proportion. That's the way I see it, but against Southampton, I think you're right. He could get 1 or 2 assists and a goal, so his ceiling is very high, and I think you'll get at least 70 minutes here if he does start, which I think is going to be the case. So it's definitely worth a punt for the captaincy. but I'm personally going to go for Erling Haaland, even if I buy Phil Foden. At least that's how I feel at the moment. In the game in midweek in UCL Fantasy, he did actually win Player of the Match, although despite being a Foden owner there with a limitless chip, I do think Matheus Nunes probably deserved it. Rodgers or Smith-Rowe? Rodgers this week. Havertz to Wissa for a -4. Not sure I'd do it for a -4, and as good as Wissa looks this week, I think he'll start. He might not get as many minutes as you'd hope for because he's just coming back from an injury. It could be 60, 70 minutes, and don't be surprised if he's subbed off before then. So, buy Palmer or Foden? Palmer. I just think he's the better long-term option. So as good as Foden looks this week, I think Palmer is the best transfer long-term. Sell Gabriel if I already have Raya? If so, to who? I'm in a similar situation, and my preference would be to sell Raya because Gabriel's always got the attacking potential through set pieces, and I could see him scoring in one of the next 4 games. So, difficult one, but if you were to sell Gabriel, it would probably be to Pedro Porro or Gvardiol. But if you've got Lewis already, you may not want to do that. Baleba out, Matheus Nunes in. No, I would not go for Matheus Nunes. He might not even start against Southampton. I personally don't think he will. I think he'll start against Tottenham in the Carabao Cup in a couple of days' time. I think it's on Wednesday. I wouldn't go for Matheus Nunes. If you want FPL options from City, you'd be looking at Haaland, Foden, Rico Lewis, Gvardiol, maybe a Kanji. I wouldn't be looking elsewhere. Best captains other than Haaland, Palmer, Mbumo, Watkins, and Foden. They would be my favourite ones on paper. I still like Salah and Saka if he does start, but yeah, I think the 5 I mentioned is probably the best. The free hit essentially allows you to build a team for 1 game week only. Then your squad reverts to how it was before you activate the chip. So it's kind of like a get out of jail free card. It tends to be used in a blank or double game week, which is when a blank game week, for example, is when certain teams do not feature at all because of clashes with other competitions. And a double game week is when they've got 2 games in that same game week and they'll get points for both matches within, let's say, game week 33, for example. So yeah, the free hit, that's the way it works, really. You can use it in a single game week, and it can work very well. But just be careful with it, because sometimes it can be wasted. I've done it last season, for example. Roll or Salah to Palmer? Probably roll. You'd like to have Salah against Brighton. He does face Southampton in a couple of game weeks' time anyway. And if you're kind of bullish on Liverpool winning, or at least scoring goals against Arsenal, you know, we could see Salah against Zinchenko, and that's a mismatch. It always has been. And unfortunately for Arsenal fans, it seems like Zinchenko is destined to play against Liverpool no matter what, because all the other fullback options are injured. But yeah, I'd probably keep Salah in that case. Play Gabriel or Keane? I'd play Gabriel. And also, the fact that Keane might be benched and come on for a 1-pointer, that does kind of put me off. Hey Dylan, Hudson-Odoi or Smith-Rowe to start? Smith-Rowe for me. Start Leif Davis or Aït-Nouri. Not a big fan of either this week, but it would be Aït-Nouri. Bench Raya for Flecken? Yeah. Transfer Son to Mbumo, Foden or Johnson? My favourite would be Mbumo, personally. I think Foden looks the best for Game Week 9, arguably, but if you're looking longer term, I just think Mbumo is a very sensible transfer. Will Saka play? I still think he will, but I did cover all the updates earlier. If you just rewind a little bit, you'll see the kind of news section. He wasn't in training today, but Arteta did confirm that he trained on Wednesday, and he might have trained a little bit on Thursday as well. And it also wouldn't surprise me if Arteta kind of told Calafiori, Timber and Saka to kind of go inside whilst the cameras are out and they were filming the training session. You know, Arteta is that kind of manager. But yeah, I'd still have a good feeling about Saka playing. There's one more training session tomorrow before the clash on Sunday. So that is my gut feeling, and I hope I'm right, for Arsenal's sake anyway. Johnson or Kulusevski for Luis Diaz? Still Johnson for me. Kulusevski's been exceptional for Tottenham since pre-season, but FPL-wise, I think Johnson will get more goals. He's also got so many shots inside the box. I think it's up to like 25 now, which is outstanding for a budget midfielder. I want to start McNeil over Rodgers. I think that's fair, but I'm not sure why you're benching one of them in the first place. I mean, who are your alternatives in the midfield and forward line? They must be really good. Ideally, you'd start both. Is that Sells or Flecken? I'd actually go for Flecken this week. I think Brentford are a little bit more likely to keep a clean sheet than Nottingham Forest, but that's the way I see it. Maybe I'm wrong. Transfer in Raul or Wood? Probably Raul Jimenez because of the fixtures, but I still like Chris Wood a lot. I've had him since Game Week 1. I'm very happy with him. Son to Foden for a -4, no bench. Then I'd do it, yeah. Sell Saka for Palmer or skip, says Big Sam. I'd sell Saka to Palmer. Even if Saka plays, which I believe will be the case, I'm not entirely sure, and I think Palmer is the better option anyway. Havertz out for free or hold and roll. I probably would sell him. I probably would. You've got Cunha, Wissa, Strand Larson, Jimenez, Delap to choose from. Any of them would be great choices, and even at a similar price, Jackson or... I mean, Solanke's a bit of an awkward one to buy right now. I probably wouldn't do Havertz to Solanke in Game Week 9, but that's another possibility for you. I'd personally sell Havertz to one of Cunha or Wissa. I've got 6 captaincy options. So yeah, from those, I'd personally go for Haaland, but if you want to go a bit different, it's either Palmer or Mbeumo for me. I don't think Johnson is a captaincy option against Palace this week, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, it's completely up to you. 2 free transfers, Saka to Foden and Jackson to Wissa. Yes, simple as. Just bear in mind that Wissa might not play as many minutes as you'd like. He could be subbed off early. But I think if he gets 70 plus, he's got a great chance of returns against the depleted Ipswich Town side. Selling Jackson is a bit awkward, I'd say, but I'd probably do it. Did Son just get a red flag now? Probably, because Ange Postecoglou said he's unlikely to play in Game Week 9. It kind of seems quite certain. So I'll refresh FPL myself and see if he is flagged, but I'm fairly sure he will be anyway. At least orange flagged. Yes, he's orange flagged. So 25% chance of playing, not a red flag, which would mean no chance. So yeah, I think that's fairly accurate by FPL. It pretty much reflects what Ange Postecoglou said earlier. Hi Dylan, who starts Van der Ven, 8 Nuri or Fass? I'd go for Van der Ven. I think Palace, Tottenham could be low scoring. Son to Mbeumo or Palmer? I would go to Palmer. I like Mbeumo a lot, but Palmer is just a sensational option. What about DCL to Wissa? Yep, looks good to me. Just like I said a few minutes ago, Wissa's minutes might be a bit questionable in Game Week 9. And by the way, to BS Parika, just to kind of add a bit to my answer, in terms of timing, you might argue buying Mbeumo this week is better, so long as you can buy Palmer very soon in Game Week 10 or 11. I think that'll be fine. You might want to go to Mbeumo instead, but I think both of them are great captaincy choices, and I personally do have Palmer as my vice over Mbeumo, so that's why I gave you the Palmer option straight away. Who to play, Gabriel and Havertz or Konsa, Dunk and Delap Semenyo? Tricky questions. I'd probably go for Gabriel and Havertz still. There is a temptation for Delap against Brentford, but I think I'd go for Havertz and Gabriel. Already did Saka to Son, 1 free transfer. What to do now? Havertz and Raul in 3-5-2, -4 for Son to any other. Yeah, if you've got no other good bench option, then I'd be looking at Foden, for example, to replace Son. Eze and Raya to Mbeumo and sells or roll. I'd probably do it. I probably would. Now, football's a funny game, right? You know, if Arsenal keep a clean sheet and Eze gets a goal on bonus points, it's possible because they are good FPL options overall. But I think Mbeumo and Sells is an upgrade at the moment as a duo. Now, I have to say Raya is still the better choice in goal over Sells, considering fixtures long term and also the quality of defences. But yeah, buying Mbeumo there looks really good, so I'd probably do it. Hi Dylan, happy to see you. Saka to Palmer, Gabriel to Nuri, and Jackson to Wissa. Yeah, I also think Wissa's a good differential. The fact that I've got Valdemarissen as my backup goalkeeper has kind of limited me a little bit because I'd be very tempted to buy Wissa this week, actually, for Solanke, to name one example. But yeah, I think those transfers look really good. I don't really disagree with much of it. The only thing I would say is you don't need to get rid of every Arsenal player. So if you have Raya in goal, fair enough, you could sell Gabriel. But if you don't, you'd still want Arsenal defensive coverage long term. So I know you're doing it to fund the other moves, but just be a bit careful about that. If you can afford to keep Gabriel, you might want to do so, even over 8 Nuri. Yeah, I think Sia will keep a clean sheet. My prediction is 4-0 against Southampton. Play Gabriel or Mikolenko. I'm currently going for Mikolenko, and as I discussed earlier, the main reason why is because I've got Raya in goal, and I don't think Arsenal keep a clean sheet against Liverpool. And my only concern with this decision is Gabriel could get a goal from a set piece, which has happened in big games already against Tottenham and Man City. But because I've got Raya, I want to diversify my defence, and I've gone for Mikolenko. If you don't have that kind of structure, and you've only got Gabriel or Mikolenko, then I'd probably go for Gabriel. Saka to Foden for a -4. Tricky one. If you've got a decent bench option, I'd probably just keep Saka, but Foden could easily pay off that hit. There's no doubt about it, but my gut feeling would be to keep Saka there. Welbeck is playing or not, I can't tell you. Hurstler himself said it, and I did cover this, statement, maybe 20, 30 minutes ago. But essentially, it's too early to tell if Welbeck can play or not. He has been feeling pain, but he did train on Thursday, so we'll wait and see. Sell Welbeck or skip or sell for Wissa. I'd keep Welbeck and start him if you got a good bench option to come in if needed. Gabriel, Konsa, Robinson, who do I bench, says Kalu. I would probably bench Robinson from those three. Havertz to Larson and Amma to Garnacho. Looks good to me, mate. If you've got funds, though, I would consider Wissa or Cunha over Strand Larson, but yeah, I think that's still a decent punt. I like that. Who to captain between Foden and Boomer and Salah? Very tricky one. I'd probably go for Foden because I'm assuming you don't have Haaland, don't you? So yeah, probably Foden. Now, with my setup, I'll probably keep Palmer as my vice, and Foden would be like my third or fourth option if I do buy him. That's because I've got Haaland captain already, and there is this thing, sometimes just in case, if something weird happens, a global pandemic or, I don't know, the weather, and we have like a postponed game, it's a bit risky to captain and vice captain players from the same team, but of course it's very rare for it to happen, but that's why I tend to kind of diversify that a little bit. Buonanotte, Rodgers, Raul, Vardy, bench one. You know what? I'd probably bench Jamie Vardy here, but that's always a bit of a tricky one. Thank you to Mitra for the super chat. Raul, Cunha, Wood, Strand Larson, DCL, next 5 game weeks rank. Cunha first, Jimenez second, Chris Wood third, Larson fourth, DCL fifth, but it's very tricky to kind of rank them, but Cunha would be my favourite. I have no doubts about that. And even longer term, I think he'll do the business. Start Rodgers or Diaz? Rodgers. Saka to Foden or roll and do true transfers next week to transfer in Palmer or Son? Probably roll and buy Palmer. That's my favourite. McNeil or Smith Rowe? McNeil. Start Garnacho or Son? Yeah, I think Son either starts or doesn't play at all. So you're right to really put that question. Now, you'd be very unlucky if, for example, they do a late fitness test and it's determined Son can make a cameo off the bench. That would be very frustrating. So I'd probably just start Garnacho. I don't think Son plays. So yeah, I sold Saka to Son a few days ago. Now Son isn't playing. What do I do with one free transfer remaining? Should I sell Son or use it for someone else? If you've got a decent bench option, I'd probably just hold what you have because Son should be available for game week 10 or 11. It's not a serious injury. However, if you've got no one really decent to come off your bench, I'd go to Foden. I think that's quite simple. So yeah, just for those that are spamming, do read the pinned comment because it does make it very clear. Any spam messages will not be read out and some kind of repeat questions may be skipped. Havertz to Raul, Wood, Wissa, Larson or Cunha. Cunha's my favourite, I think. Wissa would be second, but they're all very good choices. You can't go wrong with any of them, in my opinion. Which two to start out of Trent, Gabriel and Robinson? Gabriel and Trent. Yeah, Haaland triple captain I think is absolutely fine. As I mentioned earlier though, you will have other opportunities with other players like Palmer and Salah, to name just two of them. There's still more like Saka, who could still be a great triple captaincy shout. You might have some double game weeks, which changes the complexion of how you view things. Maybe Son will enter your thinking later in the season. But in terms of Haaland, he's not going to have a better fixture than Southampton at home from now until the end of the season. Not on paper anyway. So I personally would do it if you want to triple captain Haaland. Hi Dylan, should I sell Saka to Foden, Son? I'd sell Saka to Foden, not Son, mate. We've covered that already. Son will likely miss game week 9. He's now orange flagged. It's not a serious injury, but enough to probably see him out for Sunday. Son out for Palmer or Foden. So we're getting a lot of the same questions here, but essentially I'd go to Palmer. I'd look longer term. I know Foden looks better for the next 3 game weeks, arguably, but I think Palmer is the better FPL option. Semenyo to McNeil, Garnacho or Johnson. They're all very good, but I'd probably rank it the way you ordered them yourself. So McNeil first, Garnacho second, Johnson third. McNeil would be my answer. I'm on triple captain Haaland this week. Wish me luck. Probably only to get 1 goal, but I feel the chip isn't great for double game weeks this year. Yeah, that's why I play the chip very early on. I don't think I've ever played a chip as early as Game Week 2, but I did with Erling Haaland against Ipswich Town. I'm very happy I did. I'll be honest, mate, I'd be very surprised if Haaland doesn't get a brace, and that'd still be a decent return from your triple captaincy. So, yeah, we'll wait and see how it goes. Welbeck to Jackson, Jota to Kulusevski, already own Solanke. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Kulusevski is a good FPL choice, but I don't think he's great. And I think at a similar price, you could go to Johnson, not to mention McNeil and Garnacho. I think they're all better than Kulusevski. So if I had to make a transfer this week, it'd be Jota to Garnacho or McNeil. That would be my preference. Sells or Flecken, as covered earlier, mate. I think I highlighted your question. I would go for Flecken. Trent to Gvardiol, 2 free transfers. I probably wouldn't, mate. No, I don't think so. Now, this week it will pay off, but I'm looking longer term. I think Trent is still the better asset. And the only kind of positive maybe I could add on top of it is you would save 1 million in funds, which could also help you buy Palmer or these kind of options in other positions. I wouldn't triple captain Foden personally, but it's not a bad shout. If you want to go there, it is very high risk, high reward, so it's completely up to you there. I personally wouldn't. Start 2 between Semenyo, Vandenberg and Gabriel. It would be Gabriel and I'd probably go to Semenyo. I'd diversify your team a little bit. I'm not that confident in Brentford keeping a clean sheet against Ipswich Town. Play Vardy, Rodgers or McNeil. I would play McNeil and Rodgers if possible. Don't bench one of them. I think Vardy is the one to bench. Diaz to Johnson, still good. I don't mind it. I do think Palace will be low scoring, but I do like Johnson against Villa and Ipswich Town. Should I play the wild card? I've got Maatsen, Semenyo, Saka, Smith-Rowe, Manice and Mazraoui. Mazraoui's fine. He'll play most games for Man United until Luke Shaw is back, then we'll reassess. Saka, if he is fit, and I think he will play against Liverpool, he is still an excellent choice. Smith-Rowe is decent. Semenyo is okay. So it's really Manice and Maatsen that are a problem for you. But I can see why you may want a wildcard. Check out my Best Wildcard Team podcast and see if you like that sort of structure. And if you're going to make 7+ changes, I'd probably play the chip, but it all depends on that. I wouldn't do it just for, well, I mean, you are mentioning quite a lot of players there, to be fair. I think that's 6, but I think a few of them aren't too bad, or as bad as you think anyway. Vardy or Onana? Vardy. Start Trent or Gabriel? I'd favour Trent at the moment. Any top high-priced defenders looking at the current fixtures for long-term? I still like Gabriel a lot. I really do. Trent is still always in the conversation. And Gvardiol. Those are my 3 favourites. Then you're looking at Bodro in 4th. Best 8 million mid for wildcard Son replacement. I'd probably go, I mean, Mbeumo is the best one. If you've got Mbeumo already, I'd probably say McNeil or Garnacho. Will Haaland always be the better captaincy option for City compared to Foden? Not really. The reason why I'm a bit against the triple captaincy of Foden is because his minutes in the Premier League have been awful. You know, he's not getting 90 minutes ever in this competition. Now, he may do so against Southampton, but it isn't a guarantee. Whilst with Haaland, it's much more likely, and the bulk of the big chances will fall to him in most games, but not always. To basically answer your question, Haaland won't always be the better captaincy option than Foden, because Foden as a midfielder has the advantage with the extra point for scoring a goal, getting the clean sheet point, and he's also got more creativity than Erling Haaland. Start Eze, Robinson or Delap. Models will say Eze. Yeah, I think from those 3, I'd probably agree with them because it's a home fixture. Tottenham aren't the strongest defensively, and Eze just needs 1 goal and he will get bonus points, especially in a low-scoring game. But yeah, Delap is the best in terms of form. Now, you may have Flecken or Vandenberg, a Brentford defender, and going for Delap does cause a bit of a clash, but yeah, I think I'd probably go for Eze here. How many minutes do you think Maddison gets over the next 3? Difficult to judge because in the Carabao Cup, does Maddison start in that game? If so, that might impact his starting berth against Villa. I think he starts 2 of the next 3 in the Premier League, and in terms of minutes, we'll probably see like 60 and 70, so I'd probably say 150, 160 minutes roughly, give or take. Hi Dylan, please start free. Trent Mazraoui, did he start? Gabriel Miklenko Fas. He started against Fenerbahce yesterday in an attacking midfield position, technically. I wouldn't start him against West Ham though, so I would go for Gabriel, Trent and Miklenko. Dylan, I'm going to perma-captain Palmer from Game Week 12 onwards. Yeah, look, whenever I've said something like that myself, I find myself just saying, well, it's not really working, is it? But a player like Palmer, Salah or Haaland is reliable enough to always put the armband on him, and you won't have too many regrets. But yeah, it's not a bad strategy, but I think there will be game weeks where you might want to go elsewhere, like Salah in Game Week 12 against Southampton. That's arguably even better than Palmer. Hey Dylan, Smith Rowe to McNeil. Looks good to me. If that's for free, I'd probably do it. Larson, Welbeck, or Worcester, Smith Rowe? That's a great question. Probably Larson and Welbeck. Hey Dylan, 2 to start, Lewis, Dunk, or Konsa? Definitely Lewis, and then I'm kind of conflicted about the other two. I think Wolves and Bournemouth score, but I think the most likely for a clean sheet will be Villa, so I'd go for Konsa. Do we have any potential better double game weeks to use the triple captaincy? There is nothing confirmed or guaranteed about double game weeks. We'll probably get one, maybe even 2 or 3 double game weeks, but they're going to be kind of smaller ones. They won't play a big part of our seasons like they used to do. So that's why if you've got the triple captaincy, I think most people will end up using it in a single game week. And also, for a double, you might want to use the free hit instead, which will have a bigger upside than a triple captaincy chip in most cases. I just know Delap will score today now that I've transferred him out. It's possible. I mean, Delap's had a good season so far, and he's probably been Ipswich's best player, so it's possible. So thank you to those that are still tuning in. Massively appreciate. Smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this stream to 200 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 35 subscribers. Check all the other links in the description below for my Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, as well as the Discord server, FPL League, Drafthound, and Spotify. Leave a 5-star review on my podcast. It would go a long way to support my channel. And also follow me on Spotify as well. That would be greatly appreciated. What I'm going to do now is give 5 memberships. They are completely random. And then towards the end, once the deadline is over, I'll be gifting another set of 5 memberships. So good luck to everyone. Hopefully you do get it. But unfortunately, it is, well, it's not discriminatory. And I can't really have any influence on it. I click a button and YouTube does its thing. So let's see if I can get this to work now. Because we've had some issues in the last couple of months with this. But I think this should all be good. So let's see who's won the 5 memberships. So a big shout out to David, Goldhead, Heyman, Armin. Is that Armin from Attack on Titan? And S1, Natalie S. So congratulations. And for those that didn't win it, no worries. I will be gifting 5 more at the very end when the deadline has passed. So if you still are here by then, you will be able to get some memberships as well. Yeah, I think Worcester starts, but his minutes aren't very reliable, so to speak. Start 2 between Semenyo, Vandenberg, and Gabriel. I have answered your question, Prince Izzy. Actually, I think I might have done it twice. My answer will be Gabriel and Semenyo. Best 5.9 million or under striker. Probably Wissa for me. Yeah, Wissa. Saka to Foden for free, or Saka to Palmer and Trent to Gavardio for a -4, wildcard Game Week 12. That's very interesting, actually, but I personally would do Saka to Foden for free. Start DCL or Semenyo? Calvert-Lewin. I'd start DCL. TXMN216 says Solanke for any other attackers recommended, please, or Gabriel for Gavardio. Yeah, I mean, the strikers I've covered to death already in terms of Cunha, Wissa, they'd be my favourites. Then you're looking at Strand Larson, Jimenez, Wood. But I think Gabriel to Gavardio, I'd do that if you already have Raya in goal. I still think having an Arsenal defender or defensive coverage is recommended in the long term. Start 3, Gabriel, Mikolenko, Aina, and Trent. Good luck, Dylan. Yeah, from those 4, Joao, I would basically bench... I think I'd bench Aina. I really would. Good luck to you as well. I'd rather not answer that question, by the way, Sing, about how many... Oh, okay. My bad. I thought you were going to say something else. I think 10 plus is a decent score. So that's probably my answer. Yeah, 10 plus, I think. Do you think Jackson is a season-long hold? Not really. I think he's a good option, but not a season-long hold. Forest versus Fox's prediction. I mean, I always say 1-1 when it comes to Forest, and I'm tempted to say it again. I think Leicester could get something from this game. I really do, especially if Gibbs White is out again. I'm going to go for 1-1 for now, but I'll give my final predictions towards the end. John Paul, thank you very much. Great work as usual, Dylan. Palmer and Gavardio for Saliba and Saka on a -4, plus Haaland, plus triple captain on Haaland. Yeah, I think I'd do it. As much as Saliba and Saka are good options long term, I think it makes sense considering the circumstances. Yeah, I think triple captain Haaland is completely fine, by the way, but my point is you will have other opportunities with other players like Palmer and Salah, to name just 2 players. But in terms of Haaland, I don't think Southampton at home, I don't think it gets better than that, really. Also glad to hear you're an anime fan. AOT had a disappointing finale, in my opinion. A lot of people say that to me, but I actually like the ending. I don't know. I actually saw a video yesterday talking about why they didn't like it, but I still think it was good. I have my kind of counter arguments to it, but let's not spoil it for those that haven't seen it. If you take anything away from this live stream, watch Attack on Titan. To start, Dunk or Fass or Mizraoui? Probably Dunk. Yeah, I'd go for Dunk. I think Wolves score, but Brighton have the best chance of a clean sheet from those 3 teams, and they're arguably the best defence as well. Flecken in goal, which one to bench, Trent, Gabriel or Mikalenko? I would bench Mikalenko from those 3, but yeah, it's not ideal, I guess, but I'd probably bench Mikalenko. Raul from Fulham? Yeah, of course. I've highlighted him so many times. If you check my best wildcard team, he was in it, I think in the alternative section. I really like Jimenez a lot, but I'm not fond of buying him this week necessarily. I think Everton can keep a clean sheet, and I'm hoping they do, for my sake. Who do you think will keep a clean sheet this week? City. I think City keep a clean sheet. Apologies. Just a bit of, I don't know, allergy or something. But yeah, I think Man City, Everton would be up there for me. In terms of the other teams that could keep a clean sheet, but I'm not too convinced they will, they would be Brighton, Aston Villa and Brentford. When I look at the Sunday games, I think Spurs could possibly get one, but I wouldn't bank my house on it. Definitely not. I think there'll be a lot of instances or cases of both teams scoring this weekend. But yeah, the teams I just mentioned, I think are the most likely to keep a clean sheet. And I'm most confident about Man City and perhaps Everton, which does seem a bit surprising. But I think with Gabriel, more often than not, you would start him over Mikalenko because he's got the attacking threat. And that's my only concern with my current setup. I think Haaland can easily get a 10 plus this game week. Yeah, I think so as well. I think he'll score 2 or 3 goals, so that's absolutely fair enough. Yeah, there was a player comparison of Palmer and Salah. If you rewind the stream, you'll be able to find it. If you're on your laptop, it's very easy. You'll see a preview of what I showed at the time. I have Haaland and DCL. What to do with Havertz? I think Havertz and DCL are arguably sells, but it's all a matter of timing. I think Havertz to Cunha or Wissa looks really good. I'd consider that. Then you could use those funds to upgrade DCL to Jackson, maybe in Game Week 12. Of course, you are wildcarding there anyway. Sell Son to Salah or Foden. I have Palmer. I would go to Foden. Now, look, if you can get to Salah for free and there's no complications, then yeah, go for Salah, of course. That looks great. But this week, I do think Foden outscores Salah. Aina or Nuri? Aina this week. Bench 1, Saka, Rodgers, DCL. I'd bench DCL and have him ready to come on for Saka if needed, if you're not going to sell him. Start Nuri over Vandenberg. I wouldn't do that, no. As much as I don't trust Brentford defensively, I think they've got a much better chance of a clean sheet than Wolves. But then again, with Nuri, you've always got the assist or goal threat. I have already used the triple captaincy, mate, on Erling Haaland. It was a success. One of the few things that have worked out this season so far. I had a very good start, to be honest, but it has gone downhill ever since. Let me just have a quick check and see if there's anything I've missed, because sometimes... Okay, no, it's all good. Okay, we've covered all of that. Let's go back to the normal live chat. Raul Jimenez or Wood? I prefer Chris Wood this week. But in terms of buying one now, looking towards the next 5+ game weeks, I think Jimenez might be the better one. Yeah, I think C will keep a clean sheet. Saliba, Calafiori, Timber, Odegaard, Saka out. Give me one reason not to captain Salah. Well, it's not an absolute guarantee that Calafiori, Timber and Saka are out. They didn't train today, or they weren't spotted in training, but I still have a feeling they might have participated later on when the cameras weren't there. Look, maybe that's a false hope, as Gandalf says, but I don't think that's necessarily settled. Saliba, of course, is out, and Odegaard too. But there is a chance at least one of the others you mentioned is available. But yeah, Salah's a good choice, of course, even for the captaincy. If he's up against Zinchenko, Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of how many points Salah's going to get, how many returns. Start one of Mikalenko, Diaz, Gabriel, Semenyo. I mean, it's between Gabriel and Mikalenko. And if you've got Raya already, go for Mikalenko. Kudus replacement, Garnacho and McNeil would be the best ones. At the moment, I'm most likely going to sell Saka to Foden. But the alternative is to roll, have free transfers in Game Week 10, and maybe buy Salah. So I'm keeping my options open. I'll probably make a late transfer within the next hour or so. But as things stand, I think Foden is very likely. When's the best time to wildcard if you haven't used it already? There is no specific formula, but for most people, I'd be looking at Game Week 12 as one of the best times to use it. I think alternative Game Weeks would be Game Week 14, 16, and 18. Pierre says Havertz, Saka, and Diaz to Wisserau, Salah, and Johnson for free. Looks good to me, but I do prefer McNeil and Garnacho over Johnson right now. As for Wissa or Raul, I'd take a punt on Wissa. Saliba to Milenkovic, I'm guessing that is. Yeah, that's fine. I don't think Liverpool keep a clean sheet, no, but that's with my assumption that Saka plays. If Saka doesn't play, I don't see how Arsenal score. They really struggled against Shakhtar. They had a good first half, but the second half was terrible. You know, Shakhtar created some good openings. They got through the lines very quickly and easily. But yeah, I don't think Robertson keeps a clean sheet with my predicted lineups and assumptions in mind. Trent and Maddison to Vandenberg and Palmer, 2 free transfers and holding Saka. Looks good to me. I made the exact same moves back in Game Week 7. Not great up until now, but I think they'll pay off. I think you can start Gabriel over one of Vandenberg or Mikalenko. I know that, but the reason why, and I've explained this before, is because I've got Raya in goal already, and I don't think Arsenal keep a clean sheet against Liverpool. Now, Gabriel can score a goal against Liverpool. He's done it before, but I want to diversify my defence and kind of hedge my bets a little bit. So that's why I've gone for Mikalenko and Vandenberg. But for most people, if you kind of see my responses to them, I do recommend Gabriel over both in most cases. No worries, David. Enjoy it, and always keep your eyes peeled for early access to my videos in terms of UCL Fantasy and FPL content. Should I start Diaz? It depends on your setup, but I think you can do better than Diaz this week. Now, he has scored at the Emirates before, back in January. Will Haaland's minutes reduce for the Carabao Cup? Well, the other week, before the draw was even made, and of course they've got Tottenham in that competition, Guardiola said he plans to rotate there. But will he stick to his word now with a difficult opposition away from home? And they have been in the past a bogey team for City. But I think Haaland will play at least 70, 80 minutes, and it depends on game state, right? If City are 3 or 4-0 up, he'll probably come off a little bit early, around 60 or 70. But if it's still a little bit tight, the game hangs in the balance, then maybe he gets the full 90. I think game state is very crucial when it comes to these questions. Wildcard have Palmer, Mbeumo, Salah, Winks. Have 8 million. Should I go for Spurs or budget mid? I'd probably go for a budget mid, either McNeil or Garnacho. Now, a Spurs mid isn't bad. You can go for either Maddison, although I think right now you would lean towards Johnson or Kulusevski. But my preference would be McNeil or Garnacho. Buy Foden for Trent and Aït-Nouri, or just get Brennan. Is that Brennan? Wait, so you're selling Trent and Aït-Nouri? Well, how is that working? But I do like the Foden transfer. I really do. I have to say that's my favourite. Yeah, I'd sell Saliba as covered in my Trans Tips podcast back on Tuesday, I think it was. Cunha, Wood, or Solanke for the next 3? Cunha. Gvardiol, Gabriel, Aina, sells nailed. Yeah, they'll all start most games. I think the least nailed on would be Aina. And with Ake back, that could spell trouble for Gvardiol in future game weeks. But yeah, Gabriel is as nailed on as you can get, really, especially with the Arsenal issues at the moment. Hola Dylan, ¿qué tal? Ayúdame. Cambio DCL por Wissa y cambio Porro o Gabriel por Aït-Nouri. Te digo la verdad, no haría eso cuando estoy respondiendo a Porro o Gabriel por Aït-Nouri. No lo haría en la jornada 9, así que eso está bien por ahora. Si quieres Aït-Nouri, lo puedes hacer en la jornada 10, cuando Wolves juega contra Southampton, de local. DCL por Wissa me gusta mucho, así que yo haría eso y mantendría a Porro y Gabriel. Trent to Gvardiol, not for me. Now, as a one-gimmick punt, I think Gvardiol looks great for defender transfers, but I'd rather spend those moves in the midfield or forward line if possible. I think Trent is still a long-term hold for me, if possible, of course. Trent or Gabriel to Aït-Nouri? As I just said in Spanish, well, of course, in your case, it's different. You're funding Palmer here, which is fair enough. I think I'd rather sell Gabriel at this moment in time and keep Trent. Excuse me. Saka to Salah, then Gordon, McNeil, Garnacho, Buonanotte. Yeah, looks good to me. I'd go to McNeil. I like the other options you mentioned, though. Really good choices. Garnacho and Buonanotte are really, really good choices, but I'd go for McNeil. Welcome, Baraf. Good to see you. Bench 1, McNeil, Rogers, Solanke. Probably Solanke, actually, this week. Do you think Justin is okay, hold, or swap it to Aina or someone else in the future? Yeah, I think Justin is an okay hold, but Leicester aren't great defensively. Cunha or Saka this game week? Saka, with the assumption that he starts, which of course isn't a guarantee. Bruno over Foden minutes? Not for me. I'd go for Foden. You are right to highlight the risk with Foden. You know, there definitely is one, but I think Foden is a much better option than Bruno if he can get 2 or 3 starts over the next 3 game weeks, of course. Hey Dylan, start Rogers or Welbeck this week? I would go for Rogers, but I think if you got Welbeck, you start him. I think he either starts or doesn't play at all. Solanke and Saka to Garnacho and Watkins. Yeah, looks good to me, to be honest. It's a bit awkward buying Watkins now. He does face Bournemouth this week, which looks great, but then he's got Liverpool and Tottenham away, and actually it's the other way round in terms of the exact order. I think the best time to buy Watkins would be Game Week 12, but yeah, looks good overall. Thank you, Keith, by the way, for moderating the chat. Any spam questions will not be answered, and the same goes for repeat questions, of course. We're trying to keep things fresh and entertaining here. Dunk, Robinson, Gavardio, Aina, Concert, free to start who? Says Thomas. I would go for Gavardio, Aina, and I'd probably go for Concert. Havertz to Jimenez or Greaves to Keane? I think you asked this before, mate, and I highlighted it. So once again, I'll repeat, Havertz to Jimenez is my preference. I would not buy Keane because Branthwaite is back. That means Branthwaite will start alongside Tarkowski and Keane will drop down to the bench. Hopefully you got it this time. Mavididi and Borro to McNeil and Lewis. Yep, looks pretty good to me. I do think Borro has something to offer in terms of the next 3 game weeks, specifically against Palace and Ipswich Town. But I think I'd do it. Especially Mavididi to McNeil. If you can afford that, you know, by itself and keep Borro, that's probably the best course of action. Kada says Foden, Palmer, Rogers, Mbeumo, Johnson, bench 1. Probably Johnson if I had to pick one. I think it could be low scoring. Hey Dylan, Salah, Palmer, Haaland in the same squad. Yeah, it's possible, but it would require sacrifices at some stage. You have to make compromises, and you can't have them all. Play Gabriel or Milenkovic? I'd probably play Gabriel. And look, the reason why I'm benching him, I've said this before, is because I've got Raya already in goal, and I don't want to double up on Arsenal defensively against Liverpool. But in terms of the attacking potential, I'd always be worried about Gabriel getting a set-piece goal. Start Doku or Foden? Doku, I think, is ruled out, if I'm not mistaken, so it would be Foden. So yeah, that's been covered. Thanks, mate. One more. Start Gabriel or Vandenberg? I think in isolation it would be Gabriel, but I'm going for Vandenberg to diversify my defence for the reasons disclosed just now. Start Trent or Mikolenko? I'd go for Trent still. Trent to Konate and Saka to Palmer? Yep, looks good to me. Of course, Trent is much better than Konate, and the Frenchman is a bit injury prone, unfortunately, so that could come into play very soon. Saka to Foden? Yeah, I'm looking at doing that myself. I think it's going to be a very popular transfer this week, unfortunately. Best free kick taker of all time in your opinion? I mean, if you look at it statistically, it probably is Juninho, isn't it? I mean, he scored 77 free kicks, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, look, there's a lot of great free kick takers throughout history. I think Pele was a great one, although I didn't really see much of him. Messi, of course, is one of the best of recent times. Roberto Carlos was famous, or at least some of his free kicks were some of the best of all time. But probably Juninho. Vardy to Ndai. Ndai has really caught my eye, actually, in the last couple of game weeks. He's always been very impressive to me. Very good on the ball. That's not a bad shout, but I do prefer Strand Larsen, Cunha, Wissa, Raul Jimenez, and Delap. Should I sell Trent and Gabriel to get Palmer? Depends who you're buying and who you're selling to get Palmer as well, should I say. So, which midfielder are you offloading to get Palmer? and who are the replacements for Trent and Gabriel. I think that determines it, really. But on paper, looks good. Mesraoui to Lissandro? No, I wouldn't do that. I personally wouldn't do that. Apologies, by the way. This is bloody, this is, I don't know. Allergy. I'm not sure what the allergy is to. But let's see if there's any piece of news. Nothing coming in at the moment. If you do see something, let me know in the live chat, but I doubt we'll get any leaks today, considering it's a Friday deadline. But yeah, I think most of the key news I did cover earlier. So just rewind, feel free to do so, and yeah, you'll be able to find that very simply, especially on your laptop. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Let's get this stream to over 200 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 30,000. We did hit 29k on Tuesday, so thank you very much for all your support. Yeah, I think so. I don't have the triple captaincy myself. I used it already, and it was a success, so I'm happy with it. I probably would use it now if I still had the chip. I'm captaining Palmer this week, and why didn't Haaland score in the past 3 games? Well, different reasons, isn't it? I think Wolves have a decent formula for stopping Haaland, and Craig Dawson and that back three really works well in tandem against Haaland. As for the other 2 games, I mean, it was quite surprising, and look, I just don't see Haaland blanking for a 4th time in a row. I personally would captain Haaland over Palmer, but if you're feeling, you know, more confident in Palmer, go for it. Ipswich arguably a better fixture for attackers. Yes. I think in a lot of Ipswich games, you'll see Ipswich get 1 or 2 goals, but the opposition gets 4 or 5. And I think we could see that in Gameweek 11 against Tottenham. Play Mikalenko or Konsa? Mikalenko. Would you play Martinelli or Ndai? I would play Martinelli, actually. He's got a good record against Liverpool. It wouldn't surprise me if he got something here. Is starting DCL over McNeil fine? I think DCL, due a return, has been very unlucky. I mean, the thing is, you're right, maybe DCL is a bit, you know, due, but there's also a question of his finishing ability, which just isn't reliable. I personally wouldn't bench McNeil. He can get you an assist or a goal out of nowhere, and he's a bonus points machine. I'd rather not answer this question because whenever I'm asked this and I answer it, I get a bad score, so I'd rather not jinx it. I'm a bit superstitious that way, so I do apologise. Hey Dylan, do you really bench Gabriel? Yeah, like I just mentioned, I think I highlighted your question and said that's been covered already. That's been covered many times. So essentially, I've got Raya in goal already. I don't want to double up on Arsenal defensively, so that's why I'm not looking to start him at the moment. I also don't want to jinx Arsenal. That's kind of my feeling about it. I'd rather Gabriel score, and he's on my bench, than start Gabriel, and then Gabriel does terribly, and Arsenal lose. That's just the way I roll. Start Console Gabriel. I think in isolation, I think I'd go for Gabriel, because I don't really see Villa keeping a clean sheet anyway. I think they're in the top 5 most likely teams to do so, but that doesn't mean they will. 8 Nuri Gabriel, I'd go for Gabriel. Smith Rowe, Rodgers, Trent and Gabriel to 8 Nuri, Van der Ven and Palmer. Looks good overall, but you are getting rid of some really good options, in my opinion. I'd sell Smith Rowe instead of Rodgers, but Fulham's fixtures admittedly are better than Aston Villa, over the next 4 game weeks. Should I bring in Haaland by selling Salah, Jackson, Maniz, and bringing in Johnson and Dye and Haaland -4? Not sure, mate, because I understand your logic. I think in Gameweek 9, Haaland is the best asset on paper by far. But I think in the coming game weeks, you might be tempted to sell him again. And a lot of people who have Haaland now will be looking at something similar in Gameweek 10 or 11. So, I don't know, mate. On the face of it, I see what you're doing. And I think for Gameweek 9, it looks like an upgrade. But I could just see you going back to Salah, or at least another premium, and selling Haaland. But I think for now, I'd say yes. Just be careful with Haaland. If he blanks against Southampton, you might even sell him in Gameweek 10. That's how bad it is. Saka and Solanke to Salah and Larson for free. Yeah, I'd probably do it. It's close, but I'd do it. Would you start Son just in case? I personally think he doesn't play. I think Ange Postecoglou was quite clear about it, but I think in certain scenarios you could just start him in case, as you say, and you either start or not play at all, unless you're very unlucky and he makes a cameo off the bench, which I don't think will happen. Martinelli and Watkins out for Foden and Wood? Not for me. I think Watkins will do well against Bournemouth, and Martinelli has a good record against Liverpool. I know the players you're bringing in are very promising, but I wouldn't sell Watkins this week. Darwin captain, no chance. Trent to Gvardiol or Lewis for a -4, worth it? I wouldn't do it for a -4. I think Trent is still better long term. Hi Dylan, who would you bench out of Solanke, Johnson, Rodgers or Wood? Probably Solanke here. It's between him or Johnson. Saka to Palmer or Semenyo and Trent to Palmer and Nuri. Both routes are free. I would rather do Saka to Palmer. Start Saka or Raul? Saka. Now, I personally think Saka will play, but it is risky. That's been covered, mate, already. Basically, I don't want to answer it to not jinx. Start Jackson or Savio? I would start Savio. What about FPL Challenge this week? I'll go to that very soon, but essentially I've got a lot of City and Brentford players. I think I've got Mbeumo, Palmer, Haaland, Gvardiol and Pickford. Sell Salah, who good in? I wouldn't be looking to sell Salah necessarily. If anything, this is the best time to play Arsenal. Best 5.5 and under midfielder, Rodgers and Buonanotte are the best ones, definitely. I think if you're buying one now, it'd be Buonanotte. And I think long term, you just stick with Rodgers. So that's my answer. Start Kulusevski or Wissa? Wissa. Should I transfer out Diaz? If so, for who? McNeil or Garnacho? Assuming you have Mbeumo already. Otherwise, he's the clear standout, definitely. Start Jackson or Savio? Savio, as covered earlier. Start Aina or Gabriel? Gabriel. DCL to Wissa? Yes for me. Saka to Salah, second free transfer, or 2 free transfers. Sell Trent or Saka to Palmer, 1 free transfer. I just stick with the 1 free transfer and get Palmer. Adetayo says bench 1. I think this has been covered, but one more time, it would be, I think I'd bench Nuri here. It's between him and Konate. I'd bench Nuri. Bench Son and play Vardy or sell for Son for Foden. Salah, but that would be for a -4. I take the hit and buy one of Foden or Salah, depending on your preference. I think Salah is the better long-term play. Which route should I take? 1, get Wood and Rico now and get Cunha for Solanke next week, or 2, get Cunha now and keep Solanke until Gameweek 11. Probably number 2. Saka to Foden or Palmer? Palmer. Vandenberg, Robertson, Greaves, start 1. Vandenberg. Bring in Johnson for Rodgers. 1.6 million in the bank, should I say. 2 free transfers. I wouldn't sell Rodgers this week against Bournemouth. In fact, I think he outscores Johnson in Gameweek 9. Hello Dylan, start both Trent and Gabriel or play Mikalenko for one of them? I'd play both of them. Now, if you've got Raya in goal, you may want to bench Gabriel and start Mikalenko like I did. That's the only reason I'm doing it. Thank you, Ryan, for the super chat. Hola, senor. Start 2, Trent, Gabriel, Mikalenko. Great stream. Thank you very much. I would probably go for Trent and Gabriel. So just to make it very clear, the reason why I've got Gabriel on my bench, and I did say this many times, but just to be clear, is because I don't want to double up on Arsenal defensively. I think Liverpool will score. The only concern I've got is that Gabriel could score a goal from a set piece. But apart from that, I think Arsenal concede, and I think Gabriel will blank. That's my current thinking. But Gabriel's the type of player that's fixture-proof, and you always start him if possible. But based on Saliba being out, the other possible injuries like Saka, Calafiori and Timber, Raya in place already, I want to diversify my defence, and I've gone for this setup. So if you've got Raya in goal, you may want to do the same thing as I did. But if not, I think Gabriel and Trent are the ones to go for. Yeah, I think Whistle will start, but don't be too confident about his minutes in terms of 90 plus. Well, yeah, or close to 90, should I say. I think you'll get 60, 70. Yeah, Son is very likely not going to play. This has been confirmed or stated by Ange Postecoglou. Those were exact words. He is unlikely going to play on Sunday. Best strikers for the upcoming weeks under 6.6 million. There are so many, and they've all been covered to death today. Cunha, Wissa, Strand Larsen, Jimenez, Delap. Probably in an order similar to what I just mentioned. I think Jimenez will be above Strand Larsen. And Chris Wood, of course, is still really good. But I think if you're buying one now, it's Cunha or Wissa. Hi Dylan, would you consider Saka, Maddison, Havertz, the Palmer, Foden and Wissa for a -4? Yeah, I would consider it, to be fair. I would. Looks really promising. Mbeumo, Palmer, Salah, McNeil, Maddison, Welbeck, Haaland, Raul. Who should I bench? Probably Maddison from those lot. And Welbeck might not even play anyway, so you'll probably see Maddison come on for you. Foden will start. Pep isn't confident, says Kada. Do you take a risk and captain Salah? I mean, if you've got a good feeling about Salah, he might be up against Zinchenko, who he always gets the better of. then yeah, he looks promising. But I personally think Haaland is better, and arguably one of Mbeumo or Palmer as well. I think if Arsenal are able to get 2 or 3 of their injury concerns in the side, I think it will look much more difficult for Liverpool all of a sudden. But it all depends on the fitness. Best 3 keepers. Long term, I'd still say Raya, Onana, and probably Pickford. Sells is up there, but if you are looking to buy him now, it's a bit awkward. I don't see many clean sheets for Forest over the next 5 game weeks. Best 4-point family and goalkeeper for long term, it'd be Sels. I think Verbruggen's the alternative there. Of course, Flecken's decent too. I think those are the 3 best options. I think if I'm buying one now, though, it's either Flecken or Verbruggen. When Nuno finishes suspension, not exactly sure about that. I think it was only a 1-match ban, so he should be available now in Gameweek 9. Saka to Mbeumo or Palmer? Palmer for me. Bench Trent or Gabriel? I would probably bench Gabriel. No need for the capitals, mate. Saka to Kulusevski? Not for me, no. Hi Dylan, play Mikalenko or -4 Mazraoui to Dallo? Just play Mikalenko. I think Mikalenko's got a better chance of a clean sheet than United anyway, so yeah, I just stick with that. Best attacker up to 7 million? Probably Cunha or Wissa if you're buying one now. Should I sell Havertz to Wissa and upgrade Trussell to Foden, or just roll after Havertz to Wissa? Playing in Mbeumo, McNeil, Rodgers and Palmer. Got to think about that one. I'd probably do that. Havertz to Wissa and upgrade Trussell to Foden. Looks really good to me. Which best 6.5 to 7 million midfielder to get other than Johnson? Either McNeil or Garnacho. They would be my favourites. Lillian says, do you think Forest will score against Leicester? I think they will, but not many. I think they'll score 1 or 2 goals. I'm thinking to play fast this week instead of Gabriel. I'd personally go for Gabriel, but I understand why you're looking at it. So if you've got a good feeling about Leicester defensively, be my guest. I don't think it's a bad choice. Yeah, I covered that earlier. Same with Timber and Calafiori, but there's still a chance they play. There's one more training session tomorrow. Best Gabriel replacements. At a similar price, it would be Gvardiol. But I think most people will be looking to downgrade, and then that could help them with the other moves like Palmer, for example. But yeah, a similar price would be Gvardiol. Maybe even Lewis, actually. I have Saka and Welbeck. Should I do Welbeck to Jimenez? I'd keep Welbeck this week and start him, but there is a chance he doesn't play. It's far too early to tell, so it is a big risk. But yeah, Welbeck to Jimenez isn't bad. I do think Welbeck outscores him if he starts, though. Johnson or Garnacho? Garnacho, I think, is the better option to buy now. I have Saka and Welbeck yet covered. Diaz to McNeil, Johnson for a -4. Not sure I'd do it for a -4, but I would consider buying McNeil next week. Dylan, I reckon both Arsenal and Everton will concede, but Gabriel's a bigger threat than Mikalenko. Also, a 0-0 draw is not impossible. Well, I think you make some good points, but I think Arsenal will concede. And I've actually got a good feeling about Everton defensively this week, especially with Branthwaite back. So, based on my predictions, and I could go for an Everton clean sheet here, I'm tempted to start Mikalenko over Gabriel because I've also got Raya in goal, and I don't want to double up on Arsenal defensively. I want to hedge my bets. I use my wildcard unfortunately in Game Week 6. If not, when do you plan on using it? So yeah, that covers it. I have Saka and Welbeck. Yeah, you just basically spamming the chat. Jesus Christ. Cucurella Dallo. This week, not really feeling either. I think they both concede, but with Colwill and Fofana back. Cucurella is back obviously, and Fofana. I think I'd go for Dallo still. More chance of an attack and return and bonus points. Saka to Foden or Saka to Salah and Borro to Nuri. Saka to Foden right now. I think both options are good though. Emil says, with Saka and Son, could I just keep them and hope at least Saka plays? Well, you could, but it is very risky. I personally think Saka will play. Both should be ready next week and I can spare a transfer. I just have one free transfer and can't afford Son to Palmer. That's fair enough. You could consider Foden though, as a 1 week punt at least. And I don't even mind him against Bournemouth or Brighton. I'd go for Johnson over Maddison right now. Havertz to Wissa or just hold Havertz? I'd probably buy Wissa and take a punt. There's no chance, I think, of that Wei-Seng. I wish. I hope you're right, even if it costs me a lot of points, but I don't see that happening. Smith-Rowe or Kovacic? Smith-Rowe. Start Wood or Solanke? I would go for Chris Wood. Would you bring in Salah if possible? Yeah. And like I mentioned earlier, one of my transfer plans could be rolling this week and buying Salah in Game Week 10, but it would require downgrading one of Gabriel or Raya, as well as Solanke. I would start Chris Wood, mate. Smith Rowe and Havertz out for Wood and Maddison/Garnacho, or Foden and a 4-point family and forward, or just Havertz to Solanke. Yeah, not too keen on Havertz to Solanke now. My favourite would be Smith Rowe and Havertz out for Chris Wood and Maddison or Garnacho, but you may also consider somebody like Cunha or Wissa, for example. Bought in Palmer and Brennan Johnson for Saka and Diaz. Raya and DCL remain in the team. Looks good, mate. I like the look of it. Opinion on Foden and Raul. I like Foden a lot for the next 3 game weeks, but there is a chance he's benched in one of them. As for Jimenez, he remains a good option long term, but I think Everton could keep a clean sheet this week, and that's why I'm starting Mykolenko. Yeah, I think if you've got the triple captaincy, it's a great opportunity, but you will have more later in the season with Palmer, Salah, and even Haaland himself. But when you look at City's fixtures, you won't get better than Southampton at home. So it's a great chance and a great time to do it. Bench Gabriel or Aina? I'd bench Aina. Hi Dylan, Gabriel to Gvardiol. Looks good for this week, but I'm not too keen on City defensively beyond Game Week 9. Havertz or DCL? I'd go for Cavalier in this week. My current transfer plan is probably to buy Foden for Saka. The alternative, as I just mentioned 2 minutes ago, is to roll and buy Salah in Game Week 10. Is doubling up on City defence a good idea? Not for me. I'd rather not do that. Good to see you, Twister Parky. Captain and Boomer, good shout. He is my third in command, really. The third man behind Palmer and Haaland. I wouldn't mind it, no. Best replacement for Martinelli? McNeil or Garnacho, but I do like Martinelli this week against Liverpool. If Saka is back, I think Martinelli could get a goal here. Jackson or Wissa? This week it'd be Wissa. Diaz and Saka to Johnson and Palmer, or Foden and Maddison? Johnson and Palmer. So yeah, we've covered a lot of questions already. I'll get back to a few more very soon. We've got 43 minutes left until the deadline. I'll probably wait until the end to kind of finalise my transfer plans, but yeah, I think the most likely scenario for me is to sell Saka to Phil Foden. And yeah, I'd have 1.1 million left in the bank afterwards, which could allow me to upgrade Greaves, which would give me even more squad depth. But yes, I'm not in a great position with free transfers. I did use 2 of them back in Game Week 7. Hasn't worked out great so far, but of course I did buy Cole Palmer back then. And hopefully the points start to pay off over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I think Foden and Saka is very likely for my team. And it does make getting Salah more difficult, but I could afford to wait until Game Week 12 potentially. It might include or involve rolling transfers in the next couple of weeks to be in a strong position in Game Week 12, which will be very tough to navigate for non-wildcarders. I believe a lot of people who still have the chip will actually play it in Game Week 12. So that is my current plan. Buy Phil Foden for Bukayo Saka. Top 5 captains in order. Probably Haaland. I'd say Palmer second. Watkins third, Mbeumo fourth, and Foden fifth. Something like that. Best replacement for Aina. Not sure why he'd sell Aina though. I think Aina's fine. I think Arsenal score if Saka plays. If he doesn't, I struggle to see how they get it, and maybe that's where they put a strong emphasis on set pieces and Gabriel gets their only goal or something. But yeah, I think Arsenal do score. That is my prediction based on my gut feeling on certain players and their availability. Do you have any idea when doubles could be? Roughly, it'd be beyond Game Week 30, mate, but I couldn't tell you exactly when. Off the top of my head, I believe around Game Week 34 is when we could see a double game week, but nothing is set in stone. And one of the fixtures that week, I wouldn't be able to tell you, to be honest. I don't want to sell dreams. Saka and Faster, Palmer and Pinnock. I have 2 free transfers. I honestly wouldn't be too keen on Faster Pinnock. I don't trust Brentford that much defensively. I only bought Van den Berg to fund Cole Palmer in the first place. So I'd probably just keep Fast for now and maybe start him. I've got 2 free transfers, yes. So I'd use one of them by doing Saka to Phil Foden. Best 4-point family and defender, pick one. Probably one of Milenkovic or Aina. I think it's 50-50. You just go for one of them. Maybe Milenkovic. I think Liverpool will score, yeah. I do. Especially if Calafiori and Timber are out, and you've also got Saliba suspended. If you've got a back four of Zinchenko, Gabriel, Ben White, and probably Partey, or you even see Kivior there, Liverpool are going to score 1 or 2 goals minimum. You could have Salah if downgrade Solanke to a fodder. Yeah, I know. That's why I discussed my transfer plans earlier. So if I roll this week, I could then do Saka to Salah in Game Week 10. And in order to afford it, I could do Raya to Anana, or even Gabriel to a cheaper defender, and then upgrade, or should I say downgrade Solanke to a cheap striker like Strand Larsen or Raul Jimenez. If you had a triple captain left, would you activate it now or wait for a double game week? I'd activate it now, if it was me. I believe so. I'll check the underlying stats for that because it seems to change all the time. Literally 2 weeks ago, Wolves and City had the exact same XGC of 13.6, but if I check it now, I believe there have been some changes. If anything, Ipswich Town might have the worst defence of the Premier League. In terms of XGC anyway, which is only one metric. So, yeah, the bottom 3 defences of the Premier League so far this season are Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester. So Southampton's XGC is 16.8, Ipswich is 16.9. But of course, Ipswich have had some really tough games like Liverpool at home and Man City away. Of course, Southampton have also had some tough games like Arsenal away. But yeah, basically Southampton and Ipswich are the worst defences in the Premier League. And even Leicester, that looks pretty grim for them as well. Although I think almost 5 of their XGC came against Arsenal alone. So yeah, essentially Southampton have the joint worst or almost the worst defence. Yeah, I think Whistle will play. I don't think Keane starts. I think Branthwaite comes in alongside Tarkowski. No, I don't think Son plays. Son would have been a good pick, but Ange Postecoglou said he's unlikely going to feature on Sunday. Smith Rowe is still a decent option. You could hold him with the fixtures in mind, but McNeil is better. You could make that transfer as well. Which 4-point family and defender to buy this week? I think Aina or Milenkovic is fine. I'd rather buy a Forest defender than Sells in goal because you can rotate this option when Forest's fixtures get tougher. 2 free transfers. Who should I sell out of Konsa, Saka and Diaz? Diaz for sure. I just think beyond Game Week 9, he is a sell and there are better options elsewhere. And the other one to sell, I mean, normally it'd be Konsa, and I think Saka is kind of a long-term hold, but based on the information and the circumstances, you might actually want to sell the 2 attackers in Saka and Diaz. With how Wolves defended versus City, maybe Nuri is a better option. Yeah, but they also defended well against Arsenal and Liverpool, but they've still lost a lot of games and they're bottom of the Premier League table. However, with their upcoming fixture run, I think Nuri is a good option to buy with his attacking potential, and I think Wolves will get a few clean sheets along the way, but the way they approach, you know, a game against Southampton at home in Game Week 10 will be much different to City, so I could still see them conceding in such a game, but the fixture is so good, you'd start him there. So yeah, Nuri is fine. Maybe he is the one to buy over Aina or Milenkovic in terms of the FDR. Bench Semenyo, DCL or Welbeck? I bench Semenyo. I don't think Son will play. Jimenez or Cunha? Cunha. I think this week is close, but I think long term you'd rather buy Cunha with the fixtures. Which 2 transfers are the best options? Joao Pedro to Raul, Jota to Rogers, or Munoz to Gvardiol? It would be... Oh, that's difficult, to be honest with you. I'd probably go for Raul Jimenez and Rogers. Yeah, and then just sell Munoz for another defender later down the line. Gvardiol or Lewis? Probably Lewis, based on value, Kyle Walker being out, and Ake's coming back. Of course, he scored in the 5-0 win over Sparta Prague. So I'd rather buy Rico Lewis at the moment. Start Mazraoui or Mikalenko? Mikalenko. Diaz or Havertz? Who would you keep on the bench between them? Diaz. Liverpool-Arsenal score prediction? Right now, it'd be 1-1. What are good replacements for Saka for the next 3 game weeks? I have Palmer and don't want Foden. Garnacho and McNeil would still be right up there for me. Mbumo goes without saying. If you don't have Mbumo, I think that's very simple. Should I play it Nuri and Van den Ven ahead of Gabriel? I wouldn't play Nuri over Gabriel, but Van den Ven, possibly, yeah. I have Son, so we'll possibly be auto-subbing on the benched one. Fair enough. But I wouldn't start 8 Nuri over Gabriel. Wissa or Jimenez? Wissa. I have Son, what should I do? If you've got a decent bench option, probably keep him. He should be available for Game Week 10. It's not a serious injury. However, if you've got terrible bench options, you might want to sell to someone like Foden. I'll do my predictions later on once the deadline is closed, but I've given a few already in response to certain questions. In Boomer or Haaland for captaincy? Haaland for me. Dunk, Van den Ven or Aina? I've got a sneaky feeling about Tottenham here. I'd probably go for Van den Ven. Yeah, that'd be my preference. I think Van den Ven, Aina, and Dunk in that order. Hello, bro. Triple captain Haaland. By the way, I thought Son a couple of days ago. Don't know what to do. Yeah, it's bad timing, of course. It's a bit unlucky. I'd triple captain Haaland if I still had the chip, but you will have other opportunities like some double game mix later in the season, although it's not quite clear what they will be. And you will have other options with great fixtures like Southampton at home, in Parma, and Salah. But yeah, I think Haaland this week looks great. Foden and Aina for Jota and Trent, or Gabriel out instead, or even Van den Ven since I have funds. Well, yeah, look, if you can keep Trent and Gabriel, I mean, the timing is a bit awkward because I think Van den Ven will get 1 clean sheet over the next 3 game weeks, possibly 2. I don't have the same certainty or confidence in Arsenal or Liverpool at the moment, but yeah, I think long term, the best course of action is to sell Van den Ven there and keep the others. Is Danny Welbeck available? It's not confirmed. He has been in training, but he is still feeling pain. So, as Hurstler said yesterday, it's too early to tell whether he's going to play or not. No worries, Sambi. Foden or Palmer? Palmer long term, so I'd go for him. Start Keane or Trent? Trent. Dunk, Van den Ven or Aina? Yeah, that's been covered. Who do you think wins the F1 World Championship this year? Verstappen. And also with Red Bull looking quite strong since the mini break, the other break they've had recently. Yeah, I think he secures it. I don't think Norris has the winning mentality or the edge to kind of capitalize on every Verstappen mistake or Red Bull fumble to win the championship. So, yeah, Verstappen's got the lead. I think he'll keep it. Start Vardy or Smith Rowe? I would go for Vardy. Team selection, Game Week 9, Raya, Trent, Mikalenko, Lewis, Palmer, Mbumo, Johnson, Rogers, Haaland, and Solanke. DCL looks really good. Nice use of the YouTube channel membership stickers, by the way, but I like that team. Should score points, but I don't want to jinx you. Good luck, mate. Start Gabriel or double Everton defense of Pickford and Mikalenko? I'd start Gabriel. Who should I start, Delap or Semenyo? Delap. Saka to Palmer is a logical move. Of course, it is a logical move. I personally think Saka will play, though. I haven't used the free hit bench boost. Yeah, basically, and the second wildcard, which we get from Game Week 20 onwards. If you didn't get Son, it's kind of good because we have less to stress about. No for me, Foden or Salah. Yeah, if I had enough money, I'd probably go to Salah straight away and just have him in my team, but I don't. And it would require moves elsewhere. And I could buy him for free transfers in Game Week 10, but I think I'm going to buy Foden. That is my current preference. So in a little while, I'll lock in my transfers. We sometimes get late news. I don't think we will today. Start Flecken or Verbruggen in goal. This week, I'd favour Flecken a little bit, but Brighton have the better defence. It's worth mentioning. Went for Saka, Trent to Palmer, and Nuri for free. Yeah, looks good. Saka and Trent are still great assets long term, but you've made some good transfers. Trent to Gvardiol, is it worth it? Apologies. I would keep Trent. Not a big fan of doubling up on C defensively. This week it looks great, but beyond Game Week 9, I wouldn't recommend it. With Ake back, you could see Gvardiol being benched occasionally in the Premier League, and I don't think C get that many clean sheets. I think they do against Southampton, but not beyond that. Is Foden in Pep's good books for starting yet? I could not tell you for sure, but with Doku, Grealish, De Bruyne, Oscar Bob out, I mean, if he doesn't start here, when is he? Hey Dylan, to buy Savio instead of Eze? That could be a good punt for Game Week 9, but I honestly wouldn't recommend Savio in general because once Doku and Grealish are back, you're not going to see consistent starts from him in the Premier League. Maddison or Kulusevski? I think at the moment I would lean towards Kulusevski simply because Maddison obviously played 45 minutes last week. I think he will start this week, by the way, but I think his minutes are more in question than Kulusevski. Smith Rowe to Johnson or Maddison, or just keep Smith Rowe? I would probably just keep Smith Rowe. I don't think Spurs score many goals against Palace, especially if Son misses out, which looks very likely. Can you not get Salah and Archer for Saka and Solanke? You have a good midfield. The thing is, Twisted Park, you make a very good suggestion, but the problem with doing that is I'd have to start Semenyo this week, or maybe Gabriel, which isn't too shabby. But then Rodgers faces Tottenham and Liverpool in Game Weeks 10 and 11, and Semenyo still faces City in Game Week 10. So it would look great for Game Week 9, but for Game Weeks 10 and 11, I'd probably have to make even further transfers, to be really happy with my starting 11. But you make good points. I think if I were to buy Salah, though, it would be later in the season. Mbeumo or Raul is the question, is it? Mbeumo. Wissa or Raul? Wissa. Would you do Verbruggen to a 4 million keeper to fund Jota to Foden? Areola is my second goalkeeper. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. I don't trust West Ham defensively whatsoever. No, I wouldn't do that. I like the Jota to Foden transfer, but not if you're going to start Areola week in, week out. Yeah, I think Lewis will start. Kyle Walker has been ruled out. Not really. All the team news I've basically covered earlier. I'll try to go for it now, like what has been said in the press conferences. So let's see if I can start from what happened yesterday and see. I think the first one was, Brighton. So I'm going to do that now, give you updates on all the Premier League teams from what we've seen so far, and hopefully that answers many of the questions coming up. So we've got less than half an hour left for the deadline. As I mentioned earlier, I gifted 5 memberships quite early on in the stream. There'll be 5 more gifted once the deadline has passed. So if you're still here and active in the chat, you've got a good chance of winning a free membership for an entire month, and you gain early access to my videos amongst many other perks. So Brighton, the latest updates with them is that it's too early to say whether Welbeck will be available in Game Week 9. The striker is still in pain, but he will train today. Joao Pedro remains out, and Minter is doubtful. As for Leicester, Chowdhury, Daka remain out. Vestergaard has suffered a reoccurrence of his ankle injury, but shouldn't be out for too long. As for Nottingham Forest, James Ward-Prowse returns from suspension. Sangari and Danilo remain out long-term. Gibbs White is being assessed day by day, but remains doubtful for Game Week 9. Next up, we can get this. Hopefully we can be a bit quicker here. Everton. So Eric Bonham, Garner, Broja, and Chemeti. I think I've just butchered that name, apologies. But they remain sidelined. Branthwaite and Lindstrom are available and in contention to face Fulham. As for Southampton, Fraser is suspended after the red card he got against Leicester. Smallbone is out for a little bit of time, while Sugawara faces a late fitness test, and he has been managed this week. As for Fulham, Joachim Andersen is suspended after a red card against Villa. Castagna and Lukic remain sidelined. Silva revealed that Cuenca and Carlos Vinicius are in team training ahead of the clash this weekend. Next up is Ipswich Town. So Kieran McKenna did hint at some fresh concerns. We don't know what they are. So Luongo and Kajuste could possibly return, whilst Jacob Greaves, Johnson, Antoine Zebe are all out. There's no chance of them playing in Game Week 9. The next bit of news we've got is in regards to Bournemouth. So Sinisterra will also miss Game Week 9, but he could return next weekend, and Alex Scott could be out for more than 6 weeks after undergoing knee surgery. As for Newcastle, Callum Wilson will be out until Game Week 11. He suffered a setback in his recovery, whilst Botman, Lascelles and Trippier are also out, and Matt Targett hasn't been spotted, and he's got an eczema flare-up apparently, so hopefully he feels better soon. As for Liverpool, Jota is ruled out of the Arsenal clash. Chiesa and Bradley are doubtful, whilst Alisson and Harvey Elliott are just definitively out of that clash. As for Spurs, of course, I covered this earlier with Heung-min Son. Ange Postecoglou said that he is unlikely to be fit for Game Week 9, but the injury isn't severe, so you'd expect him to be available against Aston Villa. As for Wolves, Johnston has trained quite a bit this week. Of course, he did miss Game Week 8 against Man City, and the Wolves boss said he is quite clear on who is going to start in goal from now on, and Hwang, Mosquera, Traore, Klajic and Gonzalez remain out. As for West Ham, Kudus of course is suspended for 3 games after he lashed out against Tottenham Hotspur, and there have been no fresh updates really from the Spanish manager, but it looks like Fulkrug is probably still out. That is what's been assumed. As for Crystal Palace, Wharton will play the next 3 Premier League games before the international break, and then he will undergo surgery. There are no changes in terms of the situation that Crystal Palace have. So Chadi Riyad, Franca, Decore, and Chris Richards are all out. As for Arsenal, Calafiori is still undergoing tests. Arteta did hint that the last time this happened, he played 3 days later. Saka has done a bit of training on the grass, and we will see about Sunday. And as for Timber, it's another wait and see, according to Mikel Arteta. As for Man United, Shaw, Mount, Malacia, Mainu, Maguire and Euro remain out, whilst Anthony was stretchered off against Fenerbahce in the 1-1 draw yesterday and looks likely to miss out. As for Johnny Evans and Bruno Fernandes, they will likely return after they missed the Europa League, and of course Bruno Fernandes was suspended after being sent off against Porto. As for Chelsea, Fofana and Cucurella return from suspension. Colwell, James, Gusto, Jackson and Caicedo were rested in the Europa Conference League, and it looks like everybody is fit as far as we're aware, and that is a very big squad for Chelsea, as we all know. Thomas Frank did provide some big updates, so Jensen will return to the Brentford squad this weekend. As for Igor Thiago, Rico Henry, Gustavo Nunes, Aaron Hickey and Josh Da Silva, they are out, but some of them are getting very close to returning. In fact, Rico Henry, Igor Thiago and Gustavo Nunes could be back very soon. Unai Emery has a fully fit squad against Bournemouth, so Jadon Philogene is suspended after being sent off against Fulham. We're getting close to the end of the team news, so let's just get this up, see if there's anything more. I think that's it. As far as I'm aware, there might have been 1 or 2 more press conferences in the last few hours, but yeah, I think that's all been covered really. Everything that has been kind of publicized is all done. Antonio or Raul? Raul for me. I'd definitely rather go for Raul Jimenez. Start Trent or Gabriel? I'd probably favour Trent at this moment in time. Rodgers or Garnacho? Rodgers this week. If you're looking to buy one though, I think Garnacho is the better purchase. Downgrade Gabriel for Aina? Not necessarily, unless you can make a big upgrade there. Emma says Saka's playing. I think he will play, but it's not a guarantee. Malacia was on the bench in Europa though, so Sahil. Transfer Gabriel or Arnold out, and who for? At the moment, I'd rather sell Gabriel, but I don't think Arsenal assets are suddenly terrible. I think they still have something to offer long term. Start Martinez or Nuri? I'd start Nuri. I think both United and Wolves concede, but Nuri can get you an attack in return. Best Son replacement? I think Foden. Well, Palmer's the best one, but if you can't afford him, I'd go for Foden. Welcome Lager. I did a -4 hit already because of early transfers. I did Gabriel to Nuri, Diaz to Son, and Havertz to Jimenez. What now? Bench Son and play Fass or Keane. Unfortunately with Keane, he would have been fine to play this week, and maybe he still will, but with Branthwaite available, as covered now in the press conferences section, I think Branthwaite will start alongside Tarkowski and Keane drops to the bench. So you might have to rely on Fass. I personally would look to sell Son to Foden if you can, Lager. Start 2 of Fass, Robinson, Keane. I would start Robinson and I think Fass. I don't think Keane starts. Maybe I'm wrong, and I do apologise if Keane ends up starting, but I think he will be benched. Thank you very much, Ichin, for the kind words, and good luck in Game Week 9. Favourite F1 driver of all time? Favourite F1 driver of this generation? Great questions. Michael Schumacher is my favourite of all time. I just grew up watching him. I loved his driving style. He was aggressive at times, but it was kind of like a win at all costs kind of approach. So yeah, I think Senna and Fangio would have been right up there for me as well, but they were before my time, so I think Schumacher is the one. As for of the current generation, that's close. I mean, probably Verstappen, because he does remind me a bit of Schumacher in terms of driving style, aggression, and the pure pace he's got, getting the absolute maximum of the car. But I also like Fernando Alonso. I really like him. I think he probably deserved a few more championships. I think in terms of ability, he easily could have won 4 or 5. So yeah, probably Schumacher and Verstappen are my answers right now. But I do like Alonso a lot too. Bench Dunk or Pinnock? Good question. I'd probably bench Dunk. Concert or Robinson, bench one. I'd bench Robinson. I think Everton score. Hey Dylan, bench one out of Smith Rowe, Havertz, and Calvert-Lewin. Thanks. I think I would bench Smith Rowe. Havertz has a phenomenal home record this season. He should have taken the penalty against Shakhtar. That could have been 8 consecutive Premier League games at the Emirates. Not even Premier League games. Games in all competitions, scoring a goal. But yeah, I'd probably bench Smith Rowe from those lot. Salah to Foden, I wouldn't sell Salah, no. As much as I like Foden and I might buy him this week, I wouldn't sell Salah. Rodgers versus Spurs could be a good fixture given Spurs' high line. True, and that would obviously add credence to what you said about buying a 4-point family and striker. And Salah, we actually look at that as well myself. The thing is, I'm not a big fan of Semenyo in game week 10 or 11, I'd say, but let's do that for a little bit. Let's do Saka to Salah. And then Solanke to, I'd have 5.3 million. If I had just a little bit more, I'd be very tempted to do that, by the way. Just go to Strand Larson or, Cunha, Wissa, Delap, all these strikers I've mentioned today, Raul Jimenez. But yeah, I mean, essentially I could just go to a Ross Stewart or something, or just any cheap striker. But yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Foden for now. Keep Solanke for the next couple of game weeks. Probably sell him in game week 12 anyway. But yeah, Salah will probably come back into my thinking again. I've been, quite off it in terms of timing with Salah this season. But yeah, I think I'm going to do that. So we've got 90 minutes left until the deadline. I think in the next 10, 15 minutes, I'll lock in my transfer or pretty much decide what I'm doing. And like I said, Foden in for Saka is the most likely scenario. Foden or Palmer for Saka? I think Palmer, just the better long-term option. Sonny says, start 2 of Johnson, Kulusevski, Havertz. I'd go for Johnson and Havertz. I'd bench Kulusevski. If I had the triple captaincy, I would play on Haaland this week, but you will have other opportunities with other players this season. Wissa, Mikalenko, or Strand Larson and 4.7 million defender. I would go for Wissa and Mikalenko. Start 1, Trent, Gabriel, Mikalenko. Probably Trent. Vandenberg or Mikalenko? Mikalenko. Adil says Lewis, Van den Ven, Gabriel and Collins. Who to bench? I would bench... I think I'd bench Gabriel, especially if you've got Raya in goal. Raya or Martinez? Martinez this week. Alonso unlucky to share a part of his generation with Hamilton. Yeah, but also I think his decision-making in terms of, joining teams was a bit off. With Ferrari, he got the absolute best out of the car and... at times that Ferrari wasn't anywhere near winning a title, but he kind of competed with Vettel at the time, who was another driver I liked in his prime. But yeah, Alonso was very unlucky. Hi Dylan, you keeping Saka? Probably not. Johnson or Foden? Foden. Best DS replacement? Apart from Mbumo, I'd say McNeil or Garnacho. Should I transfer in Mbumo and Raul for Solanke and Eze? I'd say so. Play Gabriel Kanate. Gabriel. I think he's more likely to get a goal than Kanate. Sel Mazraoui, Faint Nuri, or Robinson. I'd rather buy 8 Nuri because of Wolves' fixtures, but I wouldn't sell Mazraoui. Yeah, so that's been covered already, mate, even just a minute ago. I think if I still had the chip, I'd play on Erling Haaland. But you will have other opportunities in terms of double game weeks and also plum fixtures for Salah, Palmer, and even Haaland. But don't expect anything better than Southampton at home for City. Tustapaki with his team looks really good. Maybe play Vandenberg for Gabriel and think Arch and Salah in. Yeah, I think that looks fairly decent for this week. Oh, so you're looking again Salah yourself. Interesting. I think the best time to buy Salah is probably game week 10 or game week 12. But yeah, ultimately, you've got him in place already, so it's absolutely fine, even if he blanks against Arsenal, which hopefully happens. Isn't Bowen better than Brennan for the next 3? Over the next 3, I mean, just to be clear, I'm not looking to buy Johnson myself, but Is it better? I still think that Ipswich Town fixture means Johnson has that high ceiling in Game Week 11, so that alone could be enough to outscore Bowen. But overall, I think Bowen is the more consistent asset and the one I'd rather go to. Will you play Sanchez or Raya this game week? I don't think Chelsea keep a clean sheet, so I'd probably stick with Raya. Maybe I'm wrong about it. Raya or Flecken? I'd go for Flecken. No news on Foden starting, but with Doku, Grealish, De Bruyne and Oscar Bob out, it's a great chance for him to do so. I think he will start, and that's why I'm looking to buy him. Start Gabriel or Robinson? I'd still go for Gabriel out of those two. I think Everton definitely score against Fulham, and if I'm wrong about that, then so be it, but I think Everton could get the win there. Hi Dylan, do you think Mazraoui will start 60 minutes today? Well, there is another day, of course, another 2 days break, really. I mean, they play on Sunday. Of course, a very short turnaround from the Thursday match yesterday, but difficult to say. I think he will, but it's not a guarantee. Start Robinson over Konsa. Or Konsa. Yeah, Konsa for me. So roll the transfer and play Saka, Gabriel bench cover, or Gabriel and Saka take Nuri and Palmer for a -4. I take the -4 hit. No worries, roll. Triple captain Haaland. I would do it. Johnson or Garnacho next free. Garnacho. Raya or Sells. Sells this week. Thoughts on Saka and Vardy for Bruno and Solanke have 4 free transfers. Not too keen on that, mate. I think I'd rather buy Cunha, Wissa and the other strikers I mentioned over Solanke, and I think Saka to Bruno is a downgrade. Now, Bruno will probably... Well, he could outscore Saka for the next 3, but not too fond of it. Shema bought Son last week. I think now I've got to move him for Foden. It could be a blessing in disguise, though. You got 8 points from Son, and now you could get a massive haul from Foden. Start Nuri or Colwill? I go for Nuri simply because he's got more attacking potential. Start DCL, Mikalenko, or Semenyo. DCL. Is Saka not playing? Why he changed to Foden? I think Saka will play, but it's not guaranteed, and I think it's a good chance to kind of sell him because he's orange flagged, he's got tough fixtures over the next 3, and Foden has really promising games. I know Bournemouth and Brighton aren't the easiest, but Foden has a good record against those clubs. If he starts, I think he's going to get really good returns over that period. So that's why I'm looking to buy Foden. Fast, Vandenberg and Gabriel, 2 to start. Gabriel and Vandenberg. Start Gabriel, 8 Nuri. Gabriel. Maddison or Johnson? Johnson. Play Martinelli or sell him for Garnacho or Kulusevski? I think I'd start Martinelli. He's got a good record against Liverpool. I think he's got 5 goals and assists against them in his career. But the Garnacho transfer is probably one you're going to make anyway, whether it's in Game Week 9 or 10. And if Saka doesn't play, my confidence in Martinelli doing well and Arsenal scoring plummets. It really does. So if you're not backing Saka to start, I just sell him to Garnacho. I currently have Gavardio and Lewis. Take one out after Southampton for somebody like 8 Nuri. Yeah, I think that's fine. If you've got both of them, you play them against Southampton, you'll probably get returns, but longer term, you would sell them. I think you'd probably rather sell Gavardio at this moment in time. Bench Konsa or Gabriel? I'd personally bench Konsa, but on paper, Aston Villa have a better chance of a clean sheet than Arsenal. Hey Dylan, what's going on? Honestly, DCL is so annoying. I'm a guy to save transfers, but I really feel like selling. Well, there are so many forwards you can choose, like I mentioned earlier. Strand Larsen, Jimenez, Delap, Wissa, even Ndai's decent, and of course Cunha is up there. My personal favourites would be Cunha or Wissa, so take a pick from those two and I think you'll be fine. Even Chris Wood is decent to buy right now, although the timing might be a little bit off. Sell Gabriel or Virgil? I'd sell Van Dijk. Captain Mbeumo, Foden or Salah? I would captain Mbeumo. That is my personal take. Aranya says, hi Dylan, I've got Foden, Saka and Haaland and 10.2 million in the bank. Only one free transfer. Should I take a hit to get Palmer or one of Johnson, Kulusevski, Maddison, someone else? I'd take a hit to get Palmer. Saka to Bruno or Rashford? Based on recent form, I'd go for Rashford, but I prefer Garnacho overall, and I'd personally keep Saka in that context. Raya to Pickford and Saka to Semenyo. Wait, really Saka to Semenyo? I'm not really feeling that. Raya to Pickford looks okay, but not sure about Saka to Semenyo. I probably wouldn't. Start Smith Rowe or DCL? I would start DCL. Isn't Semenyo a bigger threat than Rodgers? I'm considering starting him. The thing is, though, Rodgers has been in great form recently. 2 goals in the last 3 Premier League games. Got an assist against Bologna in the Champions League. And his overall performances have been very impressive. With Semenyo, he does take a lot of shots, but I don't really see that as being threatening overall because a lot of them are from distance. Many are blocked. And against Arsenal, he did have opportunities, but he missed them against 10 men. Freed up some money by Saka to Foden. Yeah, same here. If I do that, I'll have 1.1 million in the bank, so it looks very appealing. Play Semenyo or Mikalenko? Mikalenko for me. Rodgers is not injured. I'm not sure where you heard that. Start Semenyo or DCL? I'd go for DCL. I mean, if you've got a good bench option, you could just start Son in the hopes he plays, and if not, you've got someone decent to come on. But if you've got no one to cover Son, I'd consider selling him. Salah or Palmer? I prefer Palmer this week. And if I'm buying one now, it'd also be Palmer. Start Van den Ven or Aït-Nouri? I'd start Van den Ven this week. I think Spurs have a better chance for clean sheet than Wolves. Yeah, and with Aït-Nouri, you've always got the attacking potential, but I personally would go for Van den Ven. Foden or Palmer for Saka? Palmer. Start Saka or Havertz? Saka, but it is risky, of course. Best Saka replacement, I have Palmer and Foden already. Mbeumo. And if you've got Mbeumo already, you might be looking at someone like McNeil or Garnacho. And I'm not really too fond of, you know, Saka to Bruno or Saka to, I don't know, Diaz or something like that. So I think in a lot of cases there, you might want to hold Saka. I'd start Rodgers over Semenyo, but it's up to you. I've already used the triple captaincy, mate, in Gameweek 2 and hadn't got me a hat-trick. Havertz to Wissa? Yes. Should I do a -4 Solanke to Wissa? Not for a -4. I think Wissa's minutes are doubtful enough to prevent me from suggesting that hit. If Saka doesn't play, will he come in as a sub? There is a slight chance of that happening, but I think he either starts or doesn't play at all. That's the way I see it. Who should I go for if I can't for Foden to sell Saka? Palmer? I mean, I'm not sure how that's working. Can you get to Palmer? If so, I think that's quite simple. DCL to Wissa or Saka to Foden? I think DCL to Wissa is the better long-term transfer. Gameweek 2 to Stupaki against Ipswich Town. Captain Watkins? Yeah, I like Watkins. He's in my top 5, actually. So, yeah. We've got 7 minutes left until the deadline. I'm going to lock in my team now because I don't want to leave things to chance. Having a quick look now on Twitter to see if there's anything new. I doubt it, though, of course, with this early deadline on Friday. So we will wait and see. Yeah, I don't see anything right now. If anything pops up for you, let me know and put a link in the live chat and we can assess it. But, yeah. I think one other thing I am considering for my setup, so if we go back to my team, is maybe swap. Well, either Semenyo or Gabriel would come on for me if Saka does miss out. So maybe rolling the transfer is the best scenario for me. But I just really like Foden's ceiling against Southampton. I really do. Who you benching? Yeah, it'd be Semenyo, Gabriel and Greaves. I think that's fairly settled. But yeah, with Gabriel, I've given my reasons already. I'm a bit uneasy about benching him because of the attacking potential. But I think Liverpool score, and I've got Raya in goal already. So I've gone for Mikalenko, Vandenberg, and Lewis as part of my backline. So yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna take a punt on Foden in for Saka and see what Foden can do. I think that will be the play. Garnacho, Savio, or Kulusevski for Trossard? Garnacho. He's the best one long term. Savio will do the best this week, but I think Garnacho is the best to buy. Coin toss told me to triple captain Mbeumo. It's up to you, mate. Don't be like Two-Face relying on a coin to tell you what to do, but good luck. Don't you think Wan-Bissaka will pocket Garnacho? I'm recommending Garnacho long term, not necessarily for West Ham. And did Wan-Bissaka, pocket Son last week? Not really. If anything, Wan-Bissaka was kind of targeted by Spurs. They let him have the ball and pressed him when necessary. Best 4-point family and defender? Probably Aït-Nouri. Aït-Nouri, Aina Milenkovic is probably the top 3. Keep Diaz or sell him? Sell. Saka to Garnacho or Johnson? Garnacho, but you might just want to keep Saka in that case. Already have Palmer, can't go for Foden because I've already got 3 City players, so who should I go for? Mbumo, and if you've got Mbumo already, McNeil or Garnacho will be my top 2 picks long term. No worries, Akil. Strand Larson or McNeil to start? McNeil. Yeah, I think I'm going to do Saka to Foden. I think so. Kulusevski or Garnacho? Garnacho. Mikalenko or Dalot to start? Mikalenko. Patrick says Kanate or Semenyo? Semenyo. So Param says Saka to Garnacho Johnson. I've covered that, mate. How'd you rate this team? Very decent. I don't like Aït-Nouri this week, but you've got him in place for those plum fixtures, and it's a strong team. I would be looking to sell Vardy, though, very soon, and possibly DCL. You've got so many budget forwards to go to. Yes, it is worth a triple captain on Haaland. I've said that all along. Start 2, Semenyo, DCL, and Smith Rowe. I would basically bench Smith Rowe, actually, from those 3. I think so. Yeah, I think so. Play Smith Rowe or Havertz? Probably Havertz. Saka to Johnson now and Foden to Salah next week. Yeah, it looks good. I like that. I mean, fair enough. I think that could work out. Aina or Aït-Nouri? Aina this week, Aït-Nouri long term. So it really depends on the context. If I'm looking to buy one right now, it would be Aït-Nouri. So, yeah, it's time to get things on the road. I'm going to have a look at another Man City predicted lineup to maybe allay my fears a little bit. I mean, surely Foden starts, right? Let's see if I can get their predicted lineup. But yeah, we've literally got 4 minutes left. I'm going to actually have a look at the Man City kind of forum they've got. I think it's the Blue Moon forum. Let's see what they're predicting, although, of course, it's not gospel. It's just a prediction. But, yeah, I think every single one of them has Foden in their lineup. I think he will play. And I think he's going to do really well, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go for Foden. So, yeah, time to do it. I mean, I'll probably regret this or try to buy Saka back at some stage, but I think I'm going to do it. Saka to Foden. My major concern is the fact that it does limit me a little bit in terms of, you know, I'd still have 2 free transfers next week, and I could buy Salah, maybe for a hit, but it does make it a bit more difficult to do so. Maybe, though, by buying... Nah, not really, actually. I'm just chatting crap, wouldn't I? Let me just buy him. Let's get Saka out for Foden. Done. So Foden in the lineup. That's all good. Semenyo, Gabriel, Greaves on the bench. Haaland captain. Palmer's my vice. That could easily be Mbumo. The other kind of top captaincy choice this week would be Watkins for me against Bournemouth. I really like him. And even Salah, if Arsenal do have all those injuries and Saka, Timber, Calafiori miss out, I think Salah definitely enters the equation. But if everyone's available for the Gunners that I mentioned, then I think Salah is less appealing. But that is probably my final team. I mean, the last thing to maybe determine is, do I start maybe Semenyo over Solanke, or do I start Gabriel over Mikalenko or Van den Berg? But I think I'm going to stick with this. I think so. That is my final team. I mean, the transfer's locked in. There's nothing more I can do. I know some of you might... you're probably like, what are you doing? But yeah, as color coding, people do like that sort of thing. So let's now get some menu there. That looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Well, that's not a big deal. It's just OCD, isn't it? Let's get back to your questions. We've got literally over a minute left. We've answered hundreds already. Start Welbeck or Son? Welbeck. Start Justin or Mazraoui? Justin. Foden or Mbumo? Mbumo. He's the better option overall. Thank you very much, Baraf. I appreciate it. Bench one of Rodgers, Raul, or Wood? I would bench Raul Jimenez this week, which is very risky. Foden played a full 90 UCL. Be careful, mate, given Nunes is also starting. Yeah, but I think with Doku, Grealish, De Bruyne, and Oscar Bob all out, I just think Foden's going to play. I think over the next 3, he'll start 2. And if he starts 3, I'd be very happy with that. I think he's going to get some big returns if that happens. Do I still have it for Watkins for a hit? I probably would. Just bear in mind Watkins plays Aston Villa and Liverpool next up. Yeah, OCD. But it's just people always say to me, oh, it looks better if you do it that way. I don't know. It's just a bit of fun. Thank you, Aranya, for the super chat. Let me just get that highlighted quickly. So should I do Raya to Pickford for a -4 or Saliba take Nuri for a -4? If I do the second set, who do I bench between Vandenberg, Trent, Lewis, and Nuri? If you do the second set, I'd bench Nuri. But yeah, it's just I'm not too sure if you need to take a hit, mate. Aranya, I think I'd just keep what you have. So start Raya, start Vandenberg, Trent, Lewis, and if you have to start Nuri, then so be it. But I don't think you need to take a hit, mate. No. If I had to pick one, though, it would be the Saliba to Nuri transfer for a hit. Would you triple captain Haaland now if you had it? Yes, I would. McNeil or Brady start? Sorry, oh, is that Vardy? McNeil. Start Kanate or Fass? I would start Fass. Should I go for Saka to Johnson? I probably wouldn't, no. The only reason I did Saka to Foden is because it's a high upside move over the next 3 game weeks. I think Foden has proven himself against Bournemouth, Brighton, and Southampton. Thank you very much, Kariman. Hopefully I have butchered your name, haven't I? Karimamo? Let me know. But yeah, thank you very much for the kind words. We are locked in now, unless I'm on Dreamland. I've gone for Trent, Saka, Semenyo to Lewis, Palmer, Garnacho, 2 free transfers at Game Week 10, hoping to go big this week, saving the triple captaincy. Interesting. I probably would have used it now in Game Week 9. But I do think if you've got any doubts, probably best not to play it because you will have opportunities later in the season. And if you've played another chip like the bench boost or free hit, you don't want to kind of go all in with your chips so early on. But yeah, I think Haaland against Southampton is a great opportunity. 2 transfer Game Week 10 is nice. I mean, I've got that as well, despite buying Foden. So I'm just hoping for the best in terms of the, who starts or not. So yeah, Vardy. Yeah, that was understood anyway, and hopefully you got the answer in time. El Clasico prediction on Saturday. 2 Brazilians who are currently on God mode. Well, they were in midweek, and Rafinha's been so consistent since March, really. I've said that in all of my UCL fantasy videos, but I certainly didn't expect him to get a hat-trick this week. Otherwise, I would have bought him on the bloody Limitless. But predictions for Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Interesting. I think I'm going to go for... And that's tomorrow, isn't it? The game's tomorrow. Yeah, it is. That's a bit woke. Joking. That's fine. I think Madrid win. They're at home. Yeah, I think Madrid 2-1. I mean, I could sense a draw. I don't think Barcelona win, though. I really don't. Let's actually have a look at their recent records. So yeah, 2-1 Barca in a recent friendly back in August. 3-2 Madrid in the last home meeting for them. 4-3 in the Supercopa España. 2-1 Madrid. Another friendly, Barcelona won 3-0. Copa del Rey, 4-0 Madrid. 2-1 Barca, but they're obviously at home. 1-0 Barcelona, Copa del Rey. I mean, yeah, it's a very tight battle, and it's difficult to judge because it's new managers now. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards 2-1 Madrid or 2-2. That is my current thinking. I just think Barcelona defensively are still quite frail, and they did concede chances to Bayern Munich. Yeah, I think Madrid will take them. I'm going for a Madrid win, 2-1. Juan Pablo Montoya was entertaining for a season. Yeah, he was a good driver. A bit of a calentón, very hot-headed, but quite entertaining. Yeah, let's go Gunner 24. Good luck in Game Week 9. So that's been covered. Thank you, Dylan, for being genuine with your fans and speaking with your chat. Thank you very much. No fans here, just people tuning in, but I do appreciate the support. And once again to you, good luck. And hopefully you get the FPL points. Thank you, Roberto. Score predictions, good point. We'll do that. And very soon, not sure why did that refresh, for Christ's sake? Now I can't get the fixtures up. Fuck's sake. Actually, no. I think I've got a backup plan. Ooh, let's go. All right, so Leicester City versus Nottingham Forest. I'm going to say 1-1 again. I always say 1-1 for Forest, and it's kind of a common scoreline for them. But yeah, I'll go for that. Aston Villa, Bournemouth, 3-1 Aston Villa. Brentford, Ipswich Town. This could also be 3-1, to be fair. Yeah, I'm going to go for 3-1 here as well. Brighton, Wolves, 2-1 Brighton. Man City, Southampton, 4-0 to the Citizens. Everton, Fulham. I think 1-0 Everton. That is my current prediction. Chelsea, Newcastle, 2-1 Chelsea. Crystal Palace, Spurs. I think 1-1. I think Palace get something here. West Ham, Man United, 2-2. And an Arsenal, Liverpool. As things stand, I'm going for a 1-1. But if Saka misses out, and if Timber and Calafiori are missing as well, yeah, I think Liverpool, I'd give the edge towards them. But if all three of those players do start, I might even tip the other way and give Arsenal the win. That's why I'm selling for a 1-1 at the moment, because a lot remains uncertain. Good luck, Dylan, and thanks. Yeah, no worries, Sudendra. Good luck to you. Triple captain activated. I'm quite worried. The minutes would be a slight concern, but maybe Haaland will be rested against Spurs, or at least not start that game. The thing is, though, I'll be honest, you can't really trust Pep when he says something, and things obviously changed since he made that comment about rotating in the next round of the Carabao Cup. Time to say Trent goodbye. I don't see many clean sheets for Liverpool over the next few. So if we look at their fixtures specifically, so yeah, I don't think they keep a clean sheet against Arsenal. We'll wait and see. Depends on who's available or not. I also don't think they do against Brighton, Villa, Southampton, yeah, but then City and Newcastle. I think 1 or 2 clean sheets in that period, especially obviously with Alisson missing. I think he'll be back by game week 12, 13 essentially. But yeah, I think Liverpool keep 2 clean sheets over the next 6. So the thing with Trent, though, he's got the bonus points and the assist threat, so it's still fine. Deadline finished just now, and I already regret triple captain on Haaland. I had a similar feeling with Aston Villa players on my Limitless in UCL Fantasy, but the good thing about it is that it made my substitutions easier, and I still got a good score in the Limitless in the end. But I'll be honest, I'd be very confident of Haaland this week. It's one of the few times recently that I'm very bullish on Haaland getting a brace or hat-trick for sure. You know, with Wolves, I said, yeah, I think we'll get 1 or 2 goals, but now I'm very, very confident against Southampton. Good luck, Dylan. May my no Haaland or Salah team prevail. Well, it's been pretty good recently, actually. Long may that continue. So yeah, Patrick, we'll wait and see. Like I said, I just click a button and YouTube just chooses. I don't have any impact. I think I read somewhere, though, that if you are kind of engaged in the chat without spamming, it does boost your chances. Yeah, I know. Foden's minutes have been terrible this season, but like I said, a lot of people are injured for City right now. Doku, Grealish, De Bruyne, and Oscar Bob, of course, is out for a few more months anyway. I think Foden's going to start against Southampton. I'd be very shocked if he didn't, but then again, it is Pep. What do you think the result will be if Barca Liverpool, best attack in the world versus best defense in the world? Oh, Barca versus Liverpool. Tough to say. I think at Anfield, yeah, Liverpool would win at Anfield, maybe like 2 or 3-1, but I think Barcelona win at the Camp Nou. It'd be a very close one. I do think with everyone available, because Barcelona have had a lot of injuries this season, I do think Flick is a better manager than Arne Slot, although he's done very well. So yeah, if it's like a 2-legged game, I'd give the edge to Barcelona. Some big green arrows coming over this few weeks. Surely a red arrow coming. Well, maybe, but sometimes football doesn't work like that. You can just get green arrows for fun. I benched Trent for Bodro, Mikolenko, Van den Berg. I probably would have started Trent, to be fair, but it's a decent defence. Very stressful wildcard picks. Didn't have the budget to replace players. I removed almost half of the team. Wildcards can be stressful. I never like activating the wildcard and then doing a deadline stream because I'm kind of thinking about my squad in the back of my mind and, you know, can have more time to think about it. But of course, I'm kind of preoccupied with questions. Sanchez, Trent, Lewis, Konsa, Semenyo, Rogers, Mbuma, Palmer, DCL, Wood, Haaland, triple captain. It's pretty solid. Sanchez is a good long-term goalkeeper. The defensive line is fine, but I would look to sell Konsa very soon. You do have that clash, of course, with Semenyo and Konsa, but it's not the end of the world. It's still a very strong squad. Barca 4, Real 3, high line will be exploited. Well, both teams play a very high line, to be fair. I think Barca might be a bit more cautious because they're away from home. But then again, Hansi Flick, he loves attacking football, as we saw with Bayern Munich. Chris Wood is going to get me another 7-9 pointer. I hope so, mate. I hope so. I did bench him 1 or 2 times for his returns, but I think at this point I just start him every week. Unless he plays Arsenal City away, but then I'll probably just regret it again. Cylindra says, decided to sell Trent, Semenyo, Havertz to Totti, Palmer and Wissa. using my free transfers and saving the other one, and decided to hold a triple captain for the future game week. Quite surprising as a City fan you thought that, Cylindra, but good luck. Totti Gomez, not my favourite, but at 4 million. Is it 4 million? I think he's 4.3, 4.4 now. Yeah, you can't complain too much. I've used my 2 free transfers, got Wood because I wanted to see one more on which Wolves player to bring in, and get Rico as well for Mosquera and bench Gabriel. The thing is, like, don't be surprised if Gabriel ends up making people regret it in terms of benching him. I could be one of them. I'd rather him score and he's on my bench than, like I said, I start him and I jinx Arsenal. So let's see. Good luck, Safir. First time owning Lewis. Hope first time having double City defense goes well. Yeah, I mean, 4-0 City, then towards the 90th minute, Southampton score a late consolation goal. We'll be there. I can see a 1-0 Arsenal, to be honest. Yeah, look, Arsenal can win the game. They are at home after all, but I do think if they're missing Saka, Calafiori, Timber on top of Odegaard and all the other issues, I mean, look, I'm sorry, but Zinchenko against Salah, that's a bloodbath. It always has been. When he was at City, even at Arsenal in the last couple of years, so I'm really hoping it doesn't come to that. By the way, I screwed up. I missed my Champions League deadline. Sorry to hear that, mate, but of course you are working and got other priorities. Arsenal doesn't have big game players to step an attack other than Saka, unfortunately. I see what you're saying. I do think Martinelli is a big game player, though, and actually his record against Liverpool speaks for himself. Is Martinelli consistent? No. Is he frustrating? Yeah, he is, but I don't think he's the type to hide in big games. If anything, he sometimes performs better against the better teams than he does against the worst ones. So, depends how you look at it. I think Saka's the only reliable attacker. I think you're right in terms of saying that. On Wednesday for subs. Yeah, not too shabby. I mean, not ideal, especially on a Limitless if you did do that. I've never... Actually, have I? I think I did once when I was really, really young. I don't remember it, but I think I've been once. I kept Saka with Rodgers on the bench. Ooh, benching Rodgers is wild, I think, but maybe it's not too shabby for you. Yeah, I think Saka will play anyway for you, Bruce. And if not, you've got Rodgers. It's all looking good. My new wildcard team says Easy99, Sells, Veltman, Fass, Van den Ven, Gavardio, Bernardo, Salah, Palmer, Raul, Wood, Haaland. It's a good squad. I personally don't like Jose Sarr, Ward, Basuma, Bernardo. But the rest is really good. I think those are my only kind of, I'm a bit unsure about. Even Veltman, but Brighton do have a fixture swing very soon. And they've got a decent defence, to be fair. The best triple going to be on Palmer or Salah? Well, maybe. But then again, I got a hat-trick from Haaland in Game Week 2, and people did it in Game Week 3 against West Ham, so it's going to be tough to beat, but I'm sure a Palmer or Salah will get more than that in a given game week. I mean, Palmer did it against Brighton. Thank you, Venom, and good luck to you as well. Cunha next game week for DCL? Yeah, I like that a lot. I'd be very tempted to buy Wolves players next week, like Aït-Nouri and Cunha. So let's give 5 memberships and then catch up to the rest of the chat. I have been streaming for almost 3 hours. I'll probably reach that kind of time frame anyway. So let's see if I can gift 5 memberships very soon. So yeah, good luck to those that maybe you are hoping for it. Like I said, you do get early access to my videos and many other perks like priority reply to comments. Check all the the descriptions of each membership tier and see if it tickles your fancy. So let's give 5 more now. And let's see who gets it. Surely not wasting again, right? But yeah, let's see. Arthur, Terry, Mackenzie. To be fair, Wasting is still currently a member, so that wouldn't even work. So congratulations to Arthur, Terry, Mackenzie, Jerry, and Ahmad. Enjoy the free memberships, and you will gain access to all of the perks, basically, that any member can get. So congratulations and enjoy. So, let's answer the final few questions and stuff before wrapping up. So yeah, we do have 171 likes. Let's get this stream to 200 plus. That'd be greatly appreciated. There are still quite a few watching, which I do appreciate. So let's get the likes up and also the subscriber count up. We are making strides towards 30,000. I think in this stream alone, we did get 100 subscribers. So thank you very much. We're going to try to get to 30k by the end of the calendar year. And of course, we did hit 29k on Tuesday during the UCL Fantasy Deadline stream. UCL dropped rank crazy. I actually gained a lot of rank, I think. I can't remember exactly where, but I was around 100k, and I've done decent. I've done decent. I'm a bit disappointed, though, with a few things, but it is what it is. I'll talk about that in the UCL Fantasy videos. W's in the chat. Not this time. Yeah, you've already got it, Wasting, though. You've got it. I'm still ranked 1 in my country for Predict 6. I actually did quite well in Predict 6 this week, but more so on the Tuesday. I got Sporting spot on, the 2-0. I did go for 2-1 Villa, and also as my joker, or, you know, the booster, as it's called. But yeah, I'm not doing too well overall in that. I've done better recently, though. DCL plays Saints at home. Yeah, true. I mean, matter of timing, isn't it? It's a matter of timing, but Cunha faces Southampton at home very soon as well. In fact, if we look at the fixture ticker, yeah, it's Game Week 11 where Wissa... You might argue that Game Week 11 is probably the time to do DCL to Cunha. It's just that DCL has been so disappointing. Cheers, Dylan. Nice one, mate. All the best for you for your game week. Likewise, Terry. Enjoy. I attempt to buy Verbruggen, but he just 0.2 million expensive than Jose Sarr. The thing is, though, we could see Jose Sarr drop to the bench again with Johnston available. It's just a possibility. And either way, my preference to cover Wolves defensively is 8 Nuri. I haven't bought FC25. I did play Pro Clubs a lot in previous editions, mainly from FIFA 15 to 24 with some mates. My position is essentially like a second striker or attacking midfielder. Back in the day, I was more of an attacking midfielder, score long shots, you know, get goals and assists. And I still do that, but mainly from a kind of second striker position. I drift out to the wings, also, you know, kind of stretch defenses, link up play, and yeah, then just do the business up front. Do you think Villa will finish top 4 again? It's possible, but I think Chelsea will get top 4. I think eventually Villa will find it a problem, you know, to balance the Champions League and Premier League. Even this season, despite how well they're doing in both, I think the Ipswich game and even United, those matches were quite telling, because I think if there was no Champions League, they get at least 4 points out of those 6 available rather than 2 draws. So yeah, I think Chelsea, they're able to rotate a lot in the Europa Conference League, and I think they'll get 4th. I still think Liverpool 3rd, but right now, of course, they're looking very strong. They could even get 1st or 2nd, but I personally think it's City or Arsenal to win the league, and I think City are the most likely. Sam says, Dylan, in the app, I activated the triple captaincy last moment, but I didn't see the save team option anywhere. Just after the deadline, triple captain activated or not? Yeah, if it's after the deadline, you can't. It's done. It wouldn't have been activated, but maybe it's a blessing in disguise for you. But everything has to be done before the deadline. I was set on Saka to Son for free with 1 free transfer. I literally had my transfers planned until Game Week 12 with no need to take hits, and then Son got flagged. Taking a goalkeeper hit didn't sit with me, so I've just kept Saka. Yeah, FPL and football can be like that. It throws you curveballs, but it's still fine. I think you're in a good position. I've got no one coming off the bench, though. Oof. So that's not ideal at all. Instead, I triple captain Haaland to kind of compensate. I get that kind of logic, which hardly makes sense, but so is FPL this season, so I can't be bothered. That's probably a very good way of summing it up, to be fair. Good luck. FPL not working. It tends to be, you know, locked in, basically. So the site is updating for the next half an hour or so. In previous years, it took even longer for the site to update. So yeah, just give it time, and you'll be able to make transfers for Game Week 10 already, but I wouldn't recommend that. But essentially, we are past the deadline now. Any midweek games before Game Week 10? Yeah, in the Carabao Cup, like Man City versus Tottenham at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. In my opinion, the chance of Saka playing is 50-50, maybe a little bit more likely to play than not. But I just kind of use that as an excuse to go to Foden and chase the upside. Do we get a drab affair or a real football match between Leicester and Nottingham Forest? Well, I went for 1-1, so probably a little bit in between, more so a drab. Let's wait and see. 67 points in UCL Fantasy, that's decent. My non-limitless team, by the way, would have scored 86 points. I even calculated with like the substitutions and who had a captain and stuff like that. Very surprised by it. So I didn't actually gain too much on the limitless, but still gained something. I think last year I scored more points on my non-limitless team than my limitless, so it is what it is. Sahil puts his team for the week. I rolled. Looks strong. Very strong, in fact. So, yeah, I don't really have any complaints about it. Foden captain as well. Good luck. Yeah, I probably will. Some of my friends actually wanted to watch it. The thing is, though, of course, I'll probably do a reaction stream tomorrow. And it might actually kind of cross over with the El Clasico game. So if that's the case, I probably won't be able to watch it too much. I'll be focusing on the questions. We'll wait and see though. Maybe I'll do the reaction stream on Sunday instead. But I think, just to kind of let you know, it's very likely I'm going to do it tomorrow. Apologies for not being in the stream as much. No worries, mate. Work at this time is a killer. Did get my transfers through. Son to Foden, Davis to Lewis, and bench Trent gut feeling. You got to go for your gut feelings, because if you do the opposite of your gut feeling and it turns out to be, oh, you should have followed your instincts, it becomes even more frustrating for you. But yeah, good luck, mate. It's still a good squad you've got, and it should do very well. Sounding like a Carlos Tevez there. Ah, yeah. Wait, what was it that I said then? I think I know what you're on about, but I can't remember the exact phrase he said. Yeah, UCL Fantasy I did well, around the 100-point mark, but it could have been better. I had Hakimi and I sold him, but you know, not too shabby in the end. Everyone bar Lookman returned in my starting 11, so can't really complain. Chiesa can't play a top team if Palmer needs to drop deeper. Sorry, Chiesa, Chelsea. Drop deeper and defend is complicated. Yeah, the thing is, though, I don't really consider Newcastle United to be top teams right now. I think they've got the ability or potential to become one, but they are struggling at the moment. So, yeah, I think with Palmer, no matter what the situation is, he can still get something, whether it's from penalties, creating a chance out of nothing, or scoring a goal. I lost 11 points, I think. I might have bought on Salah and Frimpong for Mbappe. To be fair, though, Twisted Parky, Frimpong was benched. So he only got like 1 point or 2 points anyway. I'm out of the 5-point scorers, so maybe just 2 points. I was very lucky that Summer got me a clean sheet after Raya benched. Oh, yeah. And actually, Young Boys had a lot of chances. Inter Milan were a bit fortunate there. I don't think Chelsea looked good, at least not better than Villa. I agree. I think Villa are the better team, but in terms of the Europe balance and also I think the fixtures long term, you look at Chelsea's run from Game Week 12, I honestly think they can go on a relatively decent unbeaten streak, or at least, you know, go, let's say, until the end of the year from Game Week 12 onwards with only like 1 loss, for example, or 2. Thank you, FPL Glory. Good luck to you, and let's see if we can get the green arrows. It's activated. The app doesn't have a save button, I think. Oh, yeah. Right. It's because it's different now. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's not a button, but you kind of click the thing. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Maybe I was wrong about that. Personally think Arsenal will score, but as a Liverpool fan, sorry, Dylan, because of form and injuries, got to go for a Liverpool win. Yeah, I think if it's the best time for Liverpool to play Arsenal, essentially. And if Saka and all those players miss out, I think Liverpool do win. But I've got a gut feeling that one of them, maybe even 2 of them could play, and that kind of changes things a little bit. So yeah, my challenge team, just to show you very briefly, is something like this. I'll probably make 1 or 2 modifications. I've got Pickford, Gvardiol, Palmer, Mbeumo, and Haaland. But if I want to focus specifically on the caveat or challenge this week, which is key passes and crosses are worth 2 points, I might go for Trent and McNeil to kind of spicing things up a little bit there. So yeah, let me know what you think of my challenge team. Red cards tonight is my prediction. As long as Chris Wood is not involved, I honestly don't care. Should I start Odegaard, Cameron Archer? Out of those lot, probably Cameron Archer, mate. I mean, the deadline is passed, by the way, so I'm not sure if you're talking about Game Week 10 now. As a fellow Arsenal fan, is it curtains on the league if Arsenal lose to Liverpool? Not completely curtains, but I think it'd become very unlikely, yeah. If Liverpool go 7 points clear, with Arsenal then facing Chelsea and Newcastle away, yeah, it becomes very sticky. And I think City easily beat Southampton. They'll be 6 points clear if that was the case. So I think Arsenal need to get a win. It reminds me of the situation back in February where Arsenal had to win, otherwise they were out of the title race, basically. And then Arsenal got the win and battered Liverpool on the day. But I don't see that happening here. I think it'll be a very close game. Do you think Wood be the top scorer given his form? Top scorer what? Of today? Or what? Not of the game week. I'll be honest, I don't think so. Good luck to you. I took a gamble captaining Foden. Hopefully it pays off. I hope so too, mate. I made the late transfer. Took a bit of a gamble, and I'm hoping for the best. Due to not having Haaland, my Prem notifications will be turned off. Good idea. You might want to do a match of the day challenge. Maybe it'll give you some good luck as well. I've never done that myself, though. He is right. We saw it last week. Palmer had a howler versus Liverpool. He was terrible. He had one big chance, which he missed. I think Caicedo was very good, though. He was the best player on the pitch. Gabriel scoring from the corner. I mean, that would be bad for me FPL-wise, but trust me, if you're asking me to like pick a massive green arrow, And then Gabriel blanks and Arsenal lose. Actually, I don't even know what I'm saying. Basically, Arsenal and Gabriel over FPL is kind of the priority. Let me just put it that way and not overcomplicate it. Yeah, I think based on what we're hearing, I think a draw is very likely, or if not, a Liverpool win. But I wouldn't completely rule out Arsenal. That's what I'll say. Buonanotte gave me a good points last game week. Fingers crossed for a good points this game week. Yeah, Forest is difficult for most attackers, but he's been really good recently. Hopefully the GOAT comes back healthy and stronger. Wait, I'm not trying to be ignorant. Are you talking about Mazraoui or who? I mean, I don't even know what I'm saying here. But yeah, good luck to you, and hopefully it all goes well. I probably just absolutely, completely read you wrong there. Good stuff, Dylan. If triple says activated, would it go through? Oh yeah. If it says activated, it would go through. Emery's been managing this Villa squad very well in both UCL and Prem. I'd be shocked if they go far in UCL and get top at the same time. Yeah, look, in the league phase, they're doing really well. Top of the table at the moment, but I think when it comes to the knockouts, I still think they'll get to the quarterfinals depending on their opponent, and I think depending on where you finish in the league phase table, it boosts your chances of an easier opponent, so to speak, in the draw. But yeah, I think they'll reach the quarterfinals of the Champions League and get 4th or 5th in the Premier League. Limitless was weird this time in UCL Fantasy. I only got 6-7 points more than what I would have gotten originally. Yeah, it was kind of similar for me. I gained a bit more than what you said, but I would have liked more. I would have liked 20, 30 points gained. But still, it was a success. Last year, like I said, I got less points on my Limitless than my non-Limitless team. That is like the worst thing that can happen. But sometimes football is like that. But another green arrow nonetheless, 286 with 11.3k overall. That's really good. Adeyemi and Lewandowski captain in matchday 2 was a massive differential. Yeah, Adeyemi. I went for Gittins back then. He got one penalty. He basically won a penalty in a 7-1 win, and I sold him on the Limitless, and he scored. But yeah, I think Adeyemi, a bit unfortunate, he got the injury afterwards, but very good punt there. Do you think Arteta will be sacked? No. We're saying no. I think that's very reactionary anyway. Let me be very clear. Arteta has his faults. There are times where I criticise him, but I think he's the man to lead Arsenal to success. He's been very close already. If it wasn't for a certain Man City, you know, you're looking at back-to-back winners, and I think Arsenal will win it eventually. It's just a matter of when. I don't think sacking Arteta is the right thing to do. Of course, if Arsenal fall off completely, let's say like they finish 4th or 5th and they play terrible football and stuff, then yeah, there would be a conversation to be had, but I don't think so, mate. No. I hope my new wildcard team better than my original points, especially last 3 game weeks. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend you calculating that sort of thing because it can make you a bit nervous. Yeah, I agree. I don't think Arteta will be sacked. I hope Gabriel doesn't score. I benched him. Yeah, but like I said, if it takes Gabriel to score for Arsenal to win, I'll take that, even if it means FPL pain for me. Thanks, Dylan, for today. Much love from Kenya. Likewise, mate. Good luck, Manu. Yeah, Anthony. No, I know Anthony is kind of like, what's it called? They put his face on Cristiano Ronaldo from 2008 and stuff. I know that. It's just, for some reason, I thought, I misread your message. I'm not going to say why. What's been your best rank around this time, Dylan? 19k in FPL, 6k in UCL for me. By far the best start to a season. I can't remember exactly, to be fair. But I think in UCL Fantasy, I'm actually doing quite well. Like, I tend to, have a really good rank in UCL Fantasy by the end. But by this stage last year, I think I was lower than I am now. But in FPL, yeah, it's pretty much similar to last season. I'm kind of very low down. I think I was actually lower last year. But, yeah, I think maybe 2-3 years ago is probably when I had my best start to the season in UCL Fantasy and FPL. Yeah, I'd say 3 years ago. How long Mancini will manage Europe team? Probably Man United. Mancini? You're talking about Roberto Mancini, or are you on about Inzaghi? But yeah, I'm not sure. As for Man United, with Ten Hag, I mean, I think that's just like it's a sack waiting to happen. Second Boy says, hi Dylan, happy to see you did not use triple captain like me. I've already used it, mate, that's why, in Game Week 2. Mbumo could genuinely outscore Haaland, and I'm quite happy about bringing in Palmer before the 10.9 price rise. No, look, I think Mbumo could outscore Haaland, but I personally think the Norwegian robot will get 2 or 3 goals against Southampton. If I had the triple captaincy, I would have used it, but as I said many times in the stream, there are other opportunities with other players later this season. I benched Gabriel for Milenkovic and Van den Berg. I probably would have started Gabriel over those two, but the reason why in my setup I went for Van den Berg is because I've got Raya in goal already, and I don't want to double up on Arsenal defensively against Liverpool. I think Arsenal will concede. Looks like City have a curse of injuries this season. Even Arsenal, mate. I mean, I think both of them have had a lot of injuries. Of course, City right now with Doku, Grealish, De Bruyne, Oscar Bob all out, you're kind of forced to play Foden in a way, right? But it's Southampton at home. I mean, if there's ever a time to get a lot of injuries, it's probably now. I think City will be fine. Of course, the Rodri one is very unfortunate. When will Ten Hag get the sack? I'm fed up. I think by November. And not trying to take the piss, mate, but we're nearly in November and United have 4 wins this season. Yeah, Roberto Mancini, he just got sacked yesterday by Saudi. Yeah, but Man United, I don't see that with the history of City. And Mancini did well with Italy, but I just don't see him going to a Premier League club, or at least a big Premier League club like Man United. He's a decent manager, but yeah, no chance to go into Man United, in my opinion. I think Graham Potter, hear me out, I think he could be a good appointment as a kind of builder, you know, establishing a good style of play, making the team play much more consistently, finishing the top 4. But yeah, I think what United want ideally is a winner, someone who can get over the line. But before you get to that stage, you need to get to a competitive level. And I think Graham Potter or a builder could actually do the job. I also have Raya, so I'll have to see tonight with Milenkovic. Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that makes sense. Mancini got a big day, doesn't have to do anything now. Yeah, a big payday in Saudi Arabia, and even with Man City back in the day as well. We have 9 wins in 2024. That is astounding, isn't it? I think Chelsea had something similar last year. Feels like Chelsea can achieve something this season. I mean, look, for me, Chelsea will win the Europa Conference League. I mean, it's a third-rate European trophy, but it's better than nothing, right? And I think Chelsea will win that. Probably have a decent run in the FA Cup or Carabao Cup. And yeah, I think in the Premier League finish 4th or 5th. So it could be a decent season for Chelsea. And I think the Europa Conference League is almost assured. Did not realise you used before. What's your score prediction for Arsenal, Liverpool and Chelsea, Newcastle? So yeah, I went through all my predictions earlier and I went for 1-1 Arsenal, Liverpool with the current information and 2-1 Chelsea. I triple captain Haaland, wish me luck. Well, good luck to you in general. Of course, Haaland doing well is good for my FPL team, but if Southampton could somehow do the impossible, I could only wish. Xabi Alonso is a bit unrealistic, but I would really like it if possible. Yeah, I think Alonso will probably go to Real Madrid in a few years, and even Liverpool at some stage, but I think now probably not with Arne Slot. Yeah, I just don't see that happening. Ineos will appoint Gareth Southgate. Well, thankfully for United fans, Southgate did say he's taking a sabbatical and he's not going to go to United for now, but maybe a big, lucrative contract offer could sway him the other way. Dylan, have you thought about going for mega differentials for content like Salah instead of Haaland, Martinelli, Isak, Rashford? It might be good for my rank, let alone for content, but I just go for what I genuinely think is the best course of action for my squad, and sometimes I get it wrong. But look, even this week, I'm not sure what Foden's ownership is, but I don't imagine it to be very high. Chelsea and Spurs, who do you hate more and why? Well, it would be Spurs because of the local rivalry. Yeah, I mean, it's Arsenal's fiercest rivals, but I have to say, I think even Man United I'd hate more than Chelsea, just because of that really big rivalry you had back in the day with Ferguson and Wenger. I think that's the best one we've seen in the Premier League era by far. So I think the way I'd rank it is Spurs or United, top, maybe Spurs first, and then Chelsea would be like 3rd or 4th. One of the best realistic options would be Stuttgart manager or Anarim. Yeah, good suggestions, but I'm not sure if you're aware. You probably are. The Stuttgart manager did reject United in the summer. I would lose it if we go for Southgate. I don't think you'll get him. I don't think so. We're always linked to Gyökeres. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe next summer, Arsenal make a big move up front, and they need to. I like Havertz, but, you know, apart from him, you've got Trossard who can play there, who's good, but I think Arsenal need a killer, a bagsman, and they don't have it right now. What do you reckon Haaland effective ownership is this week? 180 to 200%. It's between that. Man City are the devils of the league, says SOCLH. We do have some City fans in the chat, but yeah, I think people know my opinion on it. Sell Foden, Johnson, and Boomer or Rodgers to buy Salah in Game Week 10. I have 4.8 million in the bank. Sell Foden, really? I would rather sell Johnson. Well, based on fixtures, you'd arguably say Rodgers. Yeah, I think that's what you do. You sell Rodgers to Salah in Game Week 10, and then around Game Week 12, you probably buy Rodgers for Johnson. That's probably the best thing to do. Man United drawing to Fenerbahce away shows how the club has evolved. 20 also nicking a draw indicates United are 7th best. Thanks for answering the questions. I also see 1-1 Arsenal-Liverpool. I'm seeing a lot of people say that about 1-1, so maybe we'll see something different. But yeah, I think with United, winless in the Europa League, was it 24th in the league table or something? It's just not good enough. And the league form has been unacceptable. The thing that Ten Hag has done, which has bailed him out a little bit, is the trophy record. Winning the Carabao Cup, reaching the FA Cup final, and then winning the FA Cup the year after is very impressive, but not good enough in the league. Hi mate, what do you think of bringing in Salah for Game Week 10 and triple captaining him? I like the idea of buying Salah in Game Week 10. I discussed it earlier. I might even do it still, but I wouldn't triple captain him against Brighton. I think it's a great opportunity in terms of the fixture and how it suits Salah with the high line. I mean, look, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. And Palmer did really well against Brighton a few weeks ago. If they do that again against Liverpool, they're going to get murdered and concede 3 or 4. So, look, it's not a bad shout. I just personally wouldn't triple captain Salah next week. Knowing Ten Hag, you'll end up finishing 10th but win the Europa League. Yeah. That's possible. I think United will have one good cup run, but even in Europe, based on what we've seen this season and, of course, in the Champions League last year, Ten Hag was terrible. You could argue Onana cost United last season in the Champions League, but yeah, finishing bottom of that group is unacceptable still. What about your cup overall last season? I survived until Game Week 23. I think something similar. I didn't do too well in the cups last season or the year before that. Even when I had a really good rank in FPL, it's just like I come against someone who has an absolute great game week and there's nothing you can do. Badapus's team, really strong stuff. I've gone for something similar and hopefully it gets the job done. Let's see, Vasco. Hopefully you're wrong. I think if Saka, Timber, Calafiori play, I think Arsenal will definitely not lose by that margin. Definitely not. I think if anything, Arsenal could win. Hopefully Salah plays Wednesday when I go to the cup game. Oh, yeah. You sure about that, Twister Parky? Salah could be a low-key differential in Game Week 10-12. I'm not sure about that. Maybe in terms of engaged managers, but his ownership is still very high, mate. It's like 40-50%. Do you think Spurs will win Europa? They can. I said this earlier. I think Sahil, for example, laughed at me. And look, it's early on. Spurs, unfortunately for them, do have a mentality problem. But I think if United get a new manager, and it depends who it is, I think United could win it still. Spurs would be up there in the favourites. They're one of the strongest teams in the competition. Our remaining teams in Europa are weak teams. We should be winning 4-5 and qualify directly. Yeah, but with 3 draws already, do you see United winning 4 out of 5? I mean, it could happen, but I wouldn't count on it. Yeah, exactly. You drew to 20 after being 1-0 up. Yeah, I could get to see a legend. Yeah, fair enough. It's just, he could also dent your chances. This game has draw written all over it, says Gunnar. Are we on about Liverpool-Arsenal? I hope not. I still want Arsenal to win. So if you're offering me a draw right now, I wouldn't take it. But that's just the way I think. Spurs conference though, right? Spurs conference. Well, I think Spurs can win Europa League. Yeah, I think they can. And of course, there's no more of this dropping down to other competitions. So I think that does help those in the Europa Conference League and, of course, the Europa League. Yeah, I think Chelsea are by far the favourites for their competition and for the Europa League. I'd still say United are up there, but with a different manager. If Ten Hag stays, I'm not really backing him. He had one good run in Europe a few years ago with Ajax, but based on his United record in Europe, winless in 6, I just don't see it. Spurs versus City Carabao Cup will determine which team gets a double game week. Yeah, of course, we'll talk about this when it gets to it, but that will be a very interesting game. Will City rotate as much as Guardiola said? It's the history of the Tottenham, says Sahil. Wonder what Salah's ownership is right now. Having him for Brighton is very nice. I think it's 45%. I don't know the exact figure. I think I've got it here. So it was 39% before the deadline. It might have gone up to over 40%. It's Gundogan's best differential. Not a big fan of him. I mean, for Game Week 9 against Southampton looks decent, but Not someone I'd recommend long term. Arsenal at home, I'd still back Arsenal, but I think it'll be 1-1. Yeah, it all depends on those injuries. Who's available, who's in the lineup, and I think afterwards we can make a clear prediction. But I'm going for 1-1 right now. Don't you think players' injuries are getting quite recurrent recently, especially knee-related ones? Possibly. Of course, a lot of players that are talking out against, the extra games and stuff are getting ACL injuries like Carvajal and Rodri. But I think injuries are just part of the game, isn't it? But I think we are getting more repeat ones and just more in general because of the bigger volume of games. I think Nations League should be scrapped. The next international break is in November. It's always like that. We get it in September, October and November, and then the next one will be March. So I think that period you'll be quite happy with. More Premier League football, less international football. But yeah, it will be in November. I think after... It's basically in Game Week 12, essentially. Game Week 12. Are Man United a mess as a team since Alex Ferguson left? Well, yeah, United have been a mess since he left. That is true, but I think this is probably the worst they've been in the league for quite some time. Knowing Ten Hag, we could scam our way into winning Europa. Well, then that kind of asks the question, would you stick with Ten Hag if you finish 8th or below in the Prem but win Europa? Or would you just rather get someone like Graham Potter, who might get you to like 5th or 6th this season in the Prem, not win anything, but long term you're in a better place? So it's just that question of trophies versus long-term progress. What's more likely to score if you don't have Saka? Or who's more likely to score? I think Martinelli or Gabriel because of set pieces. So yeah, that would be my answer. Vasco puts his team. Vardy, first sub. I'm not crying, by the way. It's just my voice is effed up. Let's get your question up because I keep losing the chat. Yeah, good squad. Rashford is a nice differential in very good form. Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on, actually. There are World Cup qualifiers for Asia, North America, Europe next year. Yeah, true. And of course, with South America, we've already got that happening. Spidey says Flecken, Lewis, Gavardio, Mikalenko, Palmer, Rogers and Boomer, McNeil, Raul, Solanke, Haaland, triple captain, Son sub. Yeah, fair enough. Of course, I don't think Son will play anyway, so makes sense. How was Salah left out in the African Ballon d'Or? I mean, I'm not sure, mate. I mean, a lot of African players seem to just chat nonsense about him. I'm not sure why that is. Doubt about using Limitless this game week, but took it and ended up getting 30, 40 more points. Nice. I only got like 12 more points than my non-Limitless team, but still very high score, so can't complain. I regret going for a rotating goalkeeper pair of Sanchez and Sells. It seems like Sells is a great set and forget option. Yeah, but maybe the goalkeeper duo you've got will come in handy now when Sells plays Arsenal and Man City away very soon. I mean, my priority would be qualifying for UCL. I don't care about the method, and top 4 is unrealistic anyways, although I do want Ten Hag gone. Yeah, I think that's fair. Even the United fans I know who always defended Ten Hag when I said he's not good enough, now think he should go. Assuming Havertz won't be as affected in the 8 as Jesus will start front. Well, if Saka's out, it'll be Jesus on the right, Martinelli left, Trossard false 9, and then Havertz kind of playing as the 8 or second striker. Salah did not have a good season. I think he had a decent season, but not to his high standards, of course. African Ballon d'Or, you need to be good in Africa, which he didn't. Liverpool fans need to realise that. Yeah, but I just think in general, he is a bit disrespected by like other African players, for example. I'm not sure why that is. One more thing, my defence is Consor, Dunk, Robinson, Lewis and Colwill, and the whole money in the midfield and attack, but for defender fixtures are awful. Should I take hits to mix those cheap defenders or not? I wouldn't take massive hits to sort out your defence. Colwill, for example, has good fixtures from Game Week 12 onwards. Lewis is still decent. Robinson, good fixtures. You don't need to take him out for a hit. Of course, Dunk faces Liverpool away, and then Consor facing Spurs and Liverpool away. You don't need to take hits, mate. That's the answer to that question, in my opinion. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. We have been streaming for over 3 hours. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new. And thank you very much for all your support today. We did hit 29k on Tuesday, and I did give 10 memberships in the stream today. You can also check out my links in the description below, like my Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and you can get all the latest FPL and user fantasy updates that way. Also join the Discord server, FPL League, Drafthound, as well as Spotify. Leave a 5-star review on my podcast. It would go a long way to support my channel. And SOCLH says United need Tuchel or Nagelsmann. Unpopular opinion, but top tier managers in their prime are being wasted if they coach countries instead of clubs. Yeah, but there is also something about, managing your own country. Of course, Tuchel is the England manager now. I think he could do quite well. But yeah, Nagelsmann would be a nice shout. I think Graham Potter, though, could really be a nice appointment by United. And I would have said the same thing if he managed England as well. Do you think he's up there with Eto'o and Drogba? Definitely. I think he is. Ability-wise, you could argue Eto's the best of the lot, but in terms of longevity, you'd probably give it to, well, probably Drogba or Salah there. I mean, they're all really good options. He definitely is up there. Yaya Toure. Also, George Weah, the Ballon d'Or winner. How do you rate Argentina's chances in the 2026 World Cup? I mean, Argentina are still one of the best, if not the best national team in the world right now, although Spain are, getting closer and closer, and that'll be a great game in 2026 for the Finalissima final. But yeah, it's very difficult to go back-to-back. And with no Di Maria, with Messi obviously approaching the end, yeah, it's going to be difficult for Argentina, but I still put them in the top 4 favourites very easily. I'd also put England and Brazil. I think Brazil will get their act together by then, and they're always good in World Cups, essentially. And Spain. That would be my current top 4. And of course, France have been so good in the last 20 years in the World Cups, they'd be in the top 5. But Argentina, yeah, I'd rate them quite highly, but with the kind of cautiousness that it's very difficult to go back-to-back. Sterling could start if Saka's out, but I think Jesus is more likely. I go with Gundogan. Fair enough. I like him for Gameweek 9 against Southampton, but not necessarily afterwards. What do you usually do during weekdays? Work, preparing content as well as always, and just chilling with friends I know. Sometimes it's online if I'm like playing video games, and if not, I'll meet up with them, but more so on the weekends. Good luck, Sahil, as well, and see you very soon. Everton-Fulham result. I went for 1-0 Everton, actually. And if you rewind the stream a little bit, you will see all the predictions that I gave. Thanks again, Dylan. We'll see you in the reaction stream. Thank you very much. I'll probably see you tomorrow. But if not, it'll be on Sunday. I'll keep you posted. Salah, better than Eto'o and Drogba. Of course, different positions, but you could definitely argue that. The best would be Eto'o and Drogba, in my opinion, but Salah is up there too. Yeah, they're all great players, of course. Drogba's goal scoring wasn't great, but his all-round presence was obviously top-notch. One of the best forwards you could ask for, especially in a big game, that's for sure. I'll see you very soon, lads and lasses, and maybe the reaction stream will be tomorrow, like I said. Keep your eyes peeled for more FPL and use your fantasy content. Good luck for Gameweek 9, enjoy the football, and I'll see you very soon.